Chapter 483. Lu Qing had just returned to the spectator stand when the flames were extinguished. Peng Leyun extended his right fist with a smile and gave him a fist bump. Impressive. There was no consolation, only praise. Impressive. And Chaiyang did the same with similar words and actions. Renli gave him a thumbs up after the fist bump. Thank you. Lu Qing shook his head with a smile, the gloominess in his heart dissipating significantly. At this moment the leader, Zhong Ningtao, asked with concern, "How are you? How's your injury? Do you need to go to the emergency room?" He had seen Lu Qing spit out blood just now. Although the wound on his left fist had stopped bleeding, it still looked sinister. "It's fine. It's just a superficial wound. It'll heal on its own in a couple of days." Lu Qing waved his left fist and added, "The internal injury isn't serious either. I didn't take it head on but instead took a step back. I'll take some medicine later. I'll be fine before the transformation is complete." Of course, he wouldn't be able to use his full strength in the third and fourth place matches the day after tomorrow. Luckily his opponent was Gusai. That's good, that's good. Zhong Ningtao heaved a sigh of relief and pointed to the changing room. "Let's wash it first." Lu Qing nodded and took back his phone. He saw Yenjika's dumbfounded expression. "This is the first time I've seen Kaori Karasawa use 4 aerial return." Lu Qing thought for a moment and replied, scratching head expression, "That's true. I've never seen her use it before in all the videos I've watched. I've only heard that Xinzhai sect has such a combo." Yenjika replied, "Before she mastered Qi, she probably wouldn't have been able to hit 4 times in a row. After she mastered Qi, she hasn't encountered a situation where she needs to use quadruple return of swallows. To be able to force Kaori Karasawa to use quadruple return of swallows, Brother Cheng is the best." "You're beating around the bush just to comfort me?" Lu Qing burst out laughing, his mood even more soothed. He sent messages as he walked, keeping an eye on the road from the corner of his eyes. He walked steadily. Peng Leyun and the rest followed behind, intending to wait in the changing room. It was quite a mess outside as people were leaving. "What else?" Yenjika rolled her eyes. "If you say that Kaori Karasawa is very strong and that it's normal for you to lose, or if you hug her tighter and tighter, then you say that it's not a crime for a man to cry? The earlier we can get 3rd place, the earlier we can go home. We'll see our little fairy in September." "You make it sound like it's easy for me to beat Gusai," replied Lu Qing. "Isn't that so?" Yenjika replied with a blank expression. "Let's not talk about the injuries. Gusai has them too. The main thing is that I want to experience the heart reflection punch and the fist of the 6 paths of reincarnation." "Understood. You want to learn from Peng Leyun? It's only been a few days and you've been led astray by him? Are you worthy of me?" Yenjika joked and scolded him. "After this, I don't know when I'll be able to meet an expert from the Theravada sect." Lu Qing casually explained. Normally speaking, he would always give it his all. Yes, it's good to experience more." Yenjika sent a cute emoji of a little monster licking ice cream. "But you have to remember that the difference between 3rd and 4th place is 100,000 renminbi. F***ck, I don't want to experience any more. I just want to defeat Gusai as soon as possible," replied Lu Qing humorously. After that, Yenjika asked a few more questions about his injuries. After confirming that he was fine, she went back to class with a peace of mind. As he approached the bathroom, Lu Qing browsed through the live stream post. Seeing that there weren't many regrets but many exclamations, he quickly explained. "I was too engrossed and forgot to take pictures. Yes, I was too engrossed in the fight. This excuse can only be used once. Haha, I also forgot about other things. It's not your fault, little tiger." Wonton Seller replied. Waving handkerchief expression. "Yeah, it was 2F***king exciting. Kaori Karasawa's Japanese swordsmanship is amazing. Lu Cheng's prediction is even better," replied Unparalleled Dragon King. "I suspect that Lu Qing has discovered the signs of the Flying Dragon takedown." "That's insane," said Pig Riding Knight. Looking at their discussion, Lu Qing heaved a sigh of relief. He planned to start anew after taking a shower. Aware Yin Shaoling and Brahmin. At this moment he suddenly realized that his 2 loyal fans weren't among the communicators in the live stream post. Puzzled, Lu Qing entered his name and entered the fan forum. As his gaze swept across the forum, he suddenly froze. This was because there were many similar posts on the front page of the forum, but they were from different people. Yin Shaoling, Brahmin, Nye Chi, Bull Demon King, all the good names are taken by dogs, and other IDs lined up neatly and said, "You're great. You're great. You're great. Lu Qing swiped his thumb and saw that it wasn't just the front page. They had been posting screen after screen since the end of the competition. Even though they knew it was useless, they still tried their best. Lu Qing's vision blurred again. He was exceptionally moved by their pure love and unrepentant support. They no longer paid attention to him on impulse or for fun. They came from different corners of the world. They were strangers yet so familiar. Lu Qing took a deep breath, put down his phone, turned on the shower, and washed off the sweat and blood on his body. His mood gradually calmed down. Looking at the hideous wound on his fist, he couldn't help but feel relieved that there was no live stream in China. Otherwise, his mother would nag him to death if she didn't see him vomiting blood and suffering a deep wound that exposed his bones. I'll video call her later. I'll take the initiative to explain the situation and make it light. Otherwise, someone watching the live stream will mention it to her. It's never a bad idea to take precautions. After the shower, Lu Qing ate the pills for internal injuries that Yan Zhika had strongly requested him to bring along. He also applied a large band-aid to his wound. After changing his clothes and walking out of the bathroom, he saw that Peng Liyun wasn't in a daze but was playing a game on his phone. Remembering the flying dragon takedown, he quickly reminded him. Before Kaori Karasawa's flying dragon takedown, there will be a slight cracking sound. It sounds like she is compressing her fascia, bones, muscles, and force. He was lucky to have noticed it. Without the ice mirror, who would notice the almost inaudible sound during an intense fight? Similarly, if he didn't have a premonition of danger and knew that Kaori Karasawa was about to make a move, even with the ice mirror, he would have subconsciously ignored the tiny noise. He wouldn't have heard the cracking sound at all. It wasn't for nothing that the signs of flying dragon takedown hadn't been discovered for so many years. Therefore, even if Peng Liyun knew about it beforehand, it was hard to say if he could grasp it. Peng Liyun forgot about the game, lifted his head, and nodded thoughtfully. I see. Beside him, and Chaoyang smiled and said, I feel like Kaori Karasawa's win wasn't worth it. For a few 100,000, you discovered one of the most important secrets of the Xinzhai sect. Now that you mention it, even I'm a little scared, replied Lu Qing half-jokingly. If they know that I discovered the signs of flying dragon takedown, will they come after me? At this point he answered his own question. Not afraid. If they dare to come after me, I'll post it online. Let's see who's more ruthless. Peng Liyun chuckled at his words and started spacing out. After a long while he finally came back to his senses. His expression changed. I screwed over my teammates. Haha, you're only suited for single-player games. While Lu Qing was complaining in his mind, Renli took the lead and pulled open the door to the changing room. She wanted to lead the way, but Zhong Ningtao quickly stopped her. Crick. The door opened. Renli saw a mixed-blood beauty leading a camera team. We meet again. Catherine smiled amiably. Renli tilted her head. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't recall where she had seen her before. She could only pretend that they were familiar. Here for another interview? After saying this, she finally remembered who she was. Realization dawned on her. She added, You're the reporter who spoke Chinese but didn't say it. You embarrassed Lu Qing. At the mention of this, everyone burst into laughter. Lu Qing scratched the back of his head and blushed again. After that incident, he had browsed Xinjiang's website in an attempt to find news reports. Unfortunately, he couldn't understand Xinjiang's language and could only give up. Catherine smiled. That time, I only wrote a simple news report. Today I'm here for an interview. 2 of the wildcard team made it to the semifinals, while 1 made it to the finals. An interview was necessary. Otherwise, how could they set the atmosphere for the finals? That's good, that's good. Lu Qing heaved a sigh of relief. He smiled as he watched Peng Liyun become the main character of this interview. With the experience from before, the interview this time went by the book without any accidents. At the end of the interview, Catherine said with a smile, Lu Qing, you have a nickname in Japan. What? Blurted Lu Qing. He immediately regretted it. He should have asked if the nickname was good. If it wasn't, he wouldn't have listened. Kathleen smiled sweetly and said, The demonic beast from Nebula M78. When she finished, she saw Lu Qing's face darken a few shades. After the interview, the wildcard team returned to the hotel. Everyone went to their own rooms and did their own things. After the video call with Qifang ended, Lu Qing began to recall every detail of the battle with Kaori Karasawa. He analyzed the situation and summed up his gains and losses. Yan Zhika liked this kind of thing. She interacted with him from the perspective of a bystander. The next morning, Lu Qing, who had yet to recover from his injuries, continued his metamorphosis. During the sparring session in the morning, he held back and only did a warm-up. When they gathered for lunch, Zhong Ningtao clapped his hands and said, "We have an event in the afternoon. The organizing committee has invited us to visit the Golden Buddha Temple and interact with some of the monks and young boxers. This is an official event for the King of Youth Pro League. The top 16 should try their best to attend." "Why didn't you mention this before?" asked An Chaoyang, puzzled. Zhong Ningtao shook his head. "I don't know why either. This kind of official event happens every year. In the past it was held after the finals. Who knew it would be brought forward this time?" "Yeah. I don't have anything going on in the afternoon anyway." Peng Liyun agreed with great interest after returning from outer heaven. Lu Qing and Chaoyang and Renli followed suit. Chapter 484. The official activities of the King of Four Nations were split into 3 parts. The first was to visit the famous Golden Buddha Temple in Fulua, the second was to listen to the real living Arhat Zhao Wu preaching, and the third was to train with young monks and martial arts masters. Other than the places where filming was prohibited, the media followed the entire process. In the afternoon, Lu Qing and the others entered the temple under the scorching sun and the steamer-like atmosphere. They admired the exotic Zen forest up close, which was very different from the Buddhist temples in China. The buildings here were sharp and majestic, giving off the characteristics of primitive Buddhism. As the Theravada saw Mahayana as a heresy, they didn't recognize the Bodhisattva or the many Buddhas mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures. The main hall here only enshrined Sakyamuni and his disciples, such as Mahakasyapa and others. Outside the main hall, there was an urn with Brahma, the god of 4 faces, guarding the door. His golden body was heavy and glowing, his 8 arms extended and holding objects. As it was an official activity, Lu Qing, Peng Liyun and the rest wore the representative martial arts suit with white background and red vertical stripes. It was a stark contrast to Kaori Karasawa, Muko Yamashita and the rest who wore traditional clothes and didn't mind the heat. Vagar, on the other hand, was still wearing his big brimmed hat and general uniform. He walked majestically and looked as domineering as ever. It was as though he had forgotten the scars of losing to Kaori Karasawa and the fact that he couldn't even force her to use the quadruple aerial attack. Banam was dressed in a typical Nanjing martial arts suit. His hands and feet were wrapped in white bandages. He habitually walked at the back of the group at a place where no one would notice. Waku and Gusai, one thin and one fat, were dressed in eye-catching monk robes that complemented the surroundings. During the visit they were divided into groups of 3 to 5 according to the representative group. There was a clear boundary between each group. Lu Qing took out his phone and acted like a responsible tourist. As long as there was a place to take photos, regardless of the quality of the photos, he would take them. He planned to share them with his wife at night. As for An Chaoyang and Ren Li, their only purpose was to wait for him to steal the photos. Peng Liyun, a guy whose phone camera was broken and who was distracted from time to time, was only fit to be a salted fish. Just after 3:30 p.m., they ended their tour and entered a building that looked like a lecture hall. At the head of the hall sat a sallow, emaciated and old monk. His eyes were half closed and he looked plain and unadorned. There wasn't anything special about him. He was Master Zhao Wu, who had achieved the initial state of Luohan and was equivalent to someone who had just entered the physical invulnerability state. Zhao Wu didn't even lift his eyelids. His attitude was calm. Seeing that everyone had gathered, he started to speak in the Pali language that Buddha used to write the scriptures. The 4 middle-aged monks standing on his left and right translated in English, Chinese, Japanese and Xinjiang language at the same time. Their voices overlapped and echoed in the meditation hall. There was an inexplicable deep and distant, solemn and enlightening feeling. Lu Qing listened with great interest, trying to broaden his knowledge. But as he listened he began to have doubts. Master Zhao Wu wasn't talking about Buddhist scriptures or stories, but the actual cultivation method of the 16 insight wisdom. Starting from understanding the body and mind, step by step, using metaphors to explain, it made people feel that they could really learn something from it. It can't be. Is the cultivation method of the 16 insight wisdom so worthless that he would just casually teach it to us? Lu Qing moved closer to Peng Liyun and whispered. This was equivalent to the core strength of the ice sect and the fire sect. Peng Liyun tilted his head and looked at him. His lips opened and closed. His voice was inaudible, but it went straight into Lu Qing's ears. He's only talking about the basics. He won't talk about the more profound content of the 16 insight wisdom. If you're really interested and walk on this path, he'll definitely welcome you with open arms and legs. He'll personally guide you and teach you. Seeing that Lu Qing was enlightened, he continued, "It's not bad to listen to it. The 16 insight wisdom isn't recorded in any Buddhist scriptures. It's a practical cultivation method that was refined by the eminent monks after Sakyamuni who cultivated Arhat Buddhahood. Yes, they're called saints. It's very interesting." Lu Qing sized Peng Liyun up and smiled curiously. "It's normal for me to listen to it. You're a Taoist disciple, half a practitioner. Why are you here to listen to it?" "I've decided to give Peng Liyun a nickname. He'll be called Taoist. A Taoist who's always in a trance." Peng Liyun laughed softly. Since the Song dynasty, there have been many mutual interpretations of Buddhist scriptures, perfecting each other's philosophical system. Some of them also fused with each other's cultivation method. "If I listen to Hinayana, I might be able to comprehend by analogy." As he spoke, he seemed to have thought of something. His eyes started to drift and his thoughts were no longer focused. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. He straightened his body and raised his head. Coincidentally, he saw Master Zhao Wu looking at him and nodding his head slightly. He wasn't angry, sullen, happy or smiling. However, that pair of half-closed eyes suddenly opened. At the same time when they opened, Lu Cheng's eyes seemed to be filled with radiance. He saw Master Zhao Wu's skin turn golden. He grew 3 heads and extended 6 arms. His entire body was emitting flames, sacred and dignified. It can't be? Is there really such a thing as the golden body of Arhat? Lu Qing was deeply shocked. He subconsciously formed an ice mirror to reflect his surroundings. He suspected that his senses and spirit were affected by Master Zhao Wu's mystical abilities and that he was hallucinating. In the ice mirror, the water shimmered. A golden body Arhat with 3 heads and 6 arms shone brightly. It's real. Lu Qing didn't believe in superstition. He simply did a force concentration to balance the rotation of ice and fire, forming a miniature starry sky, where darkness and light, cold and high temperature coexisted. This was to maximize the subtle premonition that had merged with his body. The surroundings seemed to have become empty. As Lu Qing released his force concentration, he looked at Zhao Wu again. He discovered that his muscles had already bulged into a streamlined shape. His skin was emitting a dark golden glow. However, where were the 3 heads, 6 arms? Where were the flames emitting from his entire body? No, in the void around him, his aura condensed as though it had materialized. Faintly, 2 blurry heads and 4 arms holding weapons appeared. At this point, Lu Qing understood the gist of it. The golden body Arhat he saw earlier was half real and half fake. It was formed by the aura condensed by Master Zhao Wu's physical body and his powerful spirit. This is an expert of the same level as a physical invulnerability expert. Thinking back to the scene of Master in the White World, he was really a land immortal. As he thought about it, Lu Cheng's state of mind calmed down. He leisurely admired Zhao Wu's miraculous display. His gaze swept past Peng Liyun. He discovered that his eyes were out of focus and his expression was blank. He didn't know where he was wandering. He didn't care about the golden body Arhat at all. Master Zhao Wu's coquettish eyes were thrown at a blind man. Lu Qing criticized silently. He shifted his gaze and saw Renli looking at the seat of honor attentively. The light in her eyes flickered as though a storm was gathering. And Chaoyang was muttering to himself with a sentimental expression as though he was reciting a poem. Reciting a poem? Lu Qing tilted his ears in surprise. He heard in Chaoyang reciting softly, "That year I kowtowed and embraced the dust. Not for Buddha but for your warmth." Lu Cheng's mouth twitched. He couldn't help but curse silently. Hee, this bunch of salted fish. They came here to listen to the scriptures for nothing. Well, except for Renli, I'll have to tell this to Cuckoo. It'll definitely make her laugh. At 4:10 p.m. the lecture ended. The group walked out of the meditation hall. Lu Qing casually sized up Kaori Karasawa, Vagar and the rest. He wanted to see any reaction from witnessing the golden body Arhat from their faces. However, they were all determined people. Their expressions had already returned to normal. He couldn't see any clues. On the other hand, the other boxing masters and samurai were still in a daze. They were obviously in a great shock and were about to doubt their lives. Next was the tutorial session. According to the arrangement of the organizing committee, they were divided into 2 groups. A few female contestants went to guide the younger female boxing masters. The rest went to the dining hall to taste the monk's rice and wait for their turn. Worried that Renli would get lost, the leader Zhong Ningtao gave Lu Qing a few words of advice before hurrying over. Muko Yamashita watched quietly and nodded his head slightly. Dining hall. The monk's rice was served one by one. The water was clear and the rice was coarse. It was extremely simple. Lu Qing, Peng Liyun and Chaoyang each ate a few mouthfuls before stopping. Why would they torture themselves when they weren't hungry? Speaking of which, I'm starting to miss the various delicacies of my homeland. Lu Qing swallowed his saliva. After a short while, the monks started to clean up the tableware. Muko Yamashita, who was not far away, glanced over from the corner of his eye. Seeing that the three of them had no objections and allowed the monk to take away the utensils in front of them, a smile appeared on his face unconsciously. This monk had already been bribed. The utensils they used would be directly collected by Otaki Mamatori. Although Lu Cheng and the rest had been eating out every day, they weren't pre-ordered. Hence, they couldn't be bribed in advance. Moreover, their leader would take care of things at the end. This time, the leader had already been transferred away. At this moment, Lu Cheng suddenly remembered something. He quickly stopped the monk who was about to leave with the utensils. He smiled at Peng Liyun and Chaoyang and said, "You guys are too careless. Where is this place?" "This is Nanyang. Sorcery is rampant and curses are everywhere. You can't leave anything closely related to yourself behind to prevent others from using it to cast spells." This was what he thought of according to the leader's instructions. Seeing that Peng Liyun and Chaoyang were in a daze, Lu Qing proudly wiped the edge of the bowl he used and wiped the other utensils that were stained with his saliva. The dark flame flickered. It didn't burn the material, but it was slightly steaming. "That's a good move," Peng Liyun praised. To be able to use the flame to remove the traces without burning the utensils, this level of control was admirable. Lu Cheng's transformation should be complete soon, right? As he spoke, he stood up as well. A silvery white flame appeared in his hand. He wiped all the utensils that belonged to him and didn't leave anything else behind. Seeing this, and Chaoyang was eager to start as well. He hadn't cultivated his supernatural ability yet, so he could only destroy with special waves. In the end, he shamefully took out wet wipes. Muko Yamashita, who was not far away, watched silently, dumbfounded. While the female experts were giving guidance, a sudden gust of wind blew over, dispelling the dullness and teasing Ren Li's straight hair. After reaching 6th pin, each strand of her hair was very sturdy. Without external forces, it would be hard for it to fall. During guidance training, there was no need to tie up her hair. Just then, Kaori Karasawa, who was near her, quietly flicked her fingers. A twisting gust of wind was hidden in the natural environment, perfectly complementing the movements of the training girl. It twisted 2 strands of Ren Li's hair and silently tore them off, as if accidentally caused by the girl's moves. No one could train absolute reaction to their hair. 2 strands of black hair with hair follicles fell. Although Ren Li felt it, she didn't find it strange and continued to feed the training girl. Kaori Karasawa's expression became more relaxed, the smile on her face still as sweet as ever. After the guidance, she pretended that an item had fallen and rolled to the side. She walked over and bent down to pick it up. When Ren Li returned to the canteen, Lu Qing told her about the Nanyang sorcery and curse voodoo and reminded her to be careful. Ren Li replied confidently, "That's nothing. I know curses too." "You know curses too?" asked Lu Qing, shocked. "Yeah. There are some voodoo curses in the plague sect. It takes a long time to prepare and there's no time to use them in battle. Also, the materials that can be gathered are usually useless and often fail. However, it's 100% accurate for myself," said Ren Li thoughtfully. "I think I lost a few strands of hair just now. I can reverse the curse." At this point, she looked at Zhong Ningtao eagerly. "Leader, I'd like to apply to go out and buy some materials." "Damn, I didn't expect you to be this kind of Ren Li. I can't afford to offend you." Lu Qing couldn't help but wipe his cold sweat. "She knows how to curse." "That's not right. I think I can reflect curses." At this thought, he didn't say anything else. Together with Peng Liyun and Chaoyang and the rest, they headed to the square to guide the pugilists and acolytes who were at most 12 or 13 years old. Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a little emotional when he saw their youthful but devoted expressions and their skillful but fierce movements. In China, this age was the first time they came into contact with martial arts. They were still at the stage of building the foundation and training their bodies. They were still a few years away from forming combat strength. It wasn't that long, but the whole society had come to a consensus that practicing martial arts at such a young age would interfere with their development and cause various negative consequences. It could also affect the child's mental health. During this process, quality education would be supplemented to prevent one or two of them from becoming illiterate. If their martial arts path was cut off in the future, they wouldn't become handicapped. However, this wasn't the case in Xinjiang. Most of them were poor and led a tough life. Although it wasn't to the extent that they didn't have a proper meal, they weren't much better off either. They had to work hard to support themselves from a young age. If they were lucky enough to be chosen to practice martial arts, it was a great thing. The earlier they could master it, the earlier they could have combat strength, and the earlier they could serve the nurturer. This was the common wish of all parties. Due to the lack of high-level experts, many of the referees here weren't up to standard. Fights were often out of control, and the smell of blood and cruelty permeated the air. However, such boxing matches were unusually popular. Many people loved them and were willing to spend money for them. According to the reports he had read, the boxing masters in Xinjiang were a group with a high rate of disability. If they hadn't reached the inhuman stage and had their root pulp mutated, they would often suffer from illness and pain after they passed their prime. They might not even live past 50. Of course, compared to many other professions, this was already very fortunate. Not only was the income good, but they could also bully the weak with their martial arts and seize some resources. As for transvestites, they were glorious for a moment but painful for many years. The reason why there was such a difference between the two countries was because other than martial arts, China was developing well in other aspects as well. For children, practicing martial arts was mostly a dream and a future, but for people of the same age in Xinjiang, it was only a matter of survival. Lu Qing guided them with all his heart. There was no discrimination, only sighing. The qualifications of the child opposite them were only average. In China, he wouldn't be able to pass the first distribution. He had to study. At 5:30 p.m. the event ended. Lu Qing and the rest didn't encounter any trouble. They successfully found a place to eat and returned to the hotel. At night, at the place where the Japanese representatives were staying, the researcher, Masai Otaki, held back his excitement and started the preliminary treatment of Ren Li's hair, intending to separate the hair follicles. He was concentrating on the operation when a dim light suddenly lit up in front of him. He saw the 2 strands of hair burning rapidly, turning into ashes in an instant, giving off a faint fruity fragrance. How did this happen? Masai Otaki was dumbfounded. After a few minutes, the phone in the room of the Japanese representative's leader rang. He picked it up and realized it was Masai Otaki. He was shouting with difficulty, "Help, help, help!" The leader hurried out and called for help. He opened the door of Masai Otaki's room and saw him lying on the floor, curled up like a shrimp, vomiting non-stop. He seemed to be in pain. It's poisonous," Masai Otaki struggled to say after seeing the help. "Seems like a mistake." Renli stared blankly at the dazzling array of decorations in front of her and muttered to herself, "There shouldn't be anyone around, right? Forget it, I won't really hurt anyone. I'll just feel uncomfortable for a while." Yes, that's settled." Renli clapped her hands and walked to the bathroom happily, intending to take a good bath. The next day, August 27th, Lu Qing, who had mostly recovered from his injuries, felt that he would be able to complete his transformation in another 2 to 3 days and truly enter the inhuman stage. After the morning sparring session, he rested, watched the videos, and waited for the next match to experience the 6 paths of reincarnation punch. As for whether Peng Liyun or Kaori Karasawa would be the final champion, he would definitely stand on his teammate's side. At 7:30 p.m., they arrived at the Xinjiang Stadium after a full meal. They entered the changing room to make the final adjustments before the match. Outside the door, there was a sea of people and the heat was overwhelming. It didn't seem like they were watching the finals but rather a festival. Inside the door, Peng Liyun was holding his phone horizontally. It was playing the battle video between Lu Qing and Kaori Karasawa. However, his eyes weren't focused on the screen as if he was thinking of something. Ren Li, who had nothing to do, was also playing with her phone. Her beautiful eyebrows furrowed from time to time as if she wanted to argue with someone. However, she controlled herself in the end. And Chaoyang, on the other hand, had his headphones on, listening to music quietly as if he was in a deserted place. As for Lu Qing, he was, of course, chatting with his little fairy. "If you lose, I'll laugh at you for the rest of my life," cover mouth snicker emoji. "For the rest of my life." Lu Qing's lips curled as he typed, "This feels so scary. I have to think about how much I should lose." Just like that, time ticked by. Lu Qing put away his phone, intending to close his eyes and rest for 15 minutes. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of Peng Liyun's return from the corner of his eye. His eyes were rejuvenated and he couldn't help but remember something. He asked in a low voice, "What's with the curse? Feels weird and scary. Is it based on the principle of quantum entanglement?" He guessed with his half-baked knowledge of physics. Peng Liyun turned his head to look at him and chuckled. "That's a blind spot in my knowledge. I'm just an undergraduate. You know this joke?" Lu Qing blurted out in surprise. I'm not a caveman. Peng Liyun shook the phone in his hand, amused. Both he and Lu Qing were rather relaxed. In the Japanese representatives area, the leader took a deep breath and threw all the distracting thoughts to the back of his mind. He looked at Kaori Karasawa and asked, "How do you feel?" Next up was the battle for Japan's honor. Kaori Karasawa moved her limbs and smiled. Not bad. My injuries should be fine now. Good. The leader nodded in satisfaction. In another changing room, Gusai, who was preparing, saw the leader walking over and heard him say in a deep voice, Lu Qing defeated Muko Yamashita Banam, and even forced Kaori Karasawa to use the quadruple aerial ace. He's publicly recognized as one of the top 4 experts in this competition. If you can defeat him, you'll be able to clear your name and Xinjiang's name. You'll be praised by everyone and receive all the glory. Gusai was also an accomplished monk. He wasn't agitated when he heard that. Instead, he replied calmly, "He's a true expert. There's a certain gap between us. It's unlikely that I'll win. Besides, he was also injured in the battle with Peng Liyun. Don't worry. We've already contacted Wu Sheng from Miluo. He'll be the referee for the match between you and Lu Qing," said the leader proudly. "Lu Qing will find out and be suspected by everyone." Gusai shook his head slowly. "No, because he won't affect your opponent or interfere with your battle. It's just that his mutated ability can help you perform better at crucial moments without attracting attention. Fight with all your heart and show everyone what the right way is." The leader waved his hand passionately. Entering the finals would be too eye-catching. Third place was just right. After a moment of silence, Gusai replied, "I only know how to be myself. I didn't hear anything else." "Very good." The leader left satisfied. Waku, who had followed along, watched quietly without saying a word. Perhaps this was the hurdle of Junior Gusai's cultivation. He would only understand after experiencing it for real. When he won against Lu Qing, he would often feel guilty and troubled because of this matter. Unable to see through it, he would then understand the falseness of his body and mind. He would hate everything in this world and develop the intention to leave. Gusai sat there motionless for a long time. Only when the announcement was made did he suddenly stand up like a mountain, his terrifyingly fat jiggling. Chapter 485. August 27, 8 p.m. sharp, the broadcast in the Xinjiang Stadium started to guide the atmosphere. The audience cheered and cheered. Before the final match, there would be a battle between the 3rd and 4th places to warm up the atmosphere. Young man, go for it. In order to get more money, there's no cheering today. Only a spur from Coach Yen. Yin Zhika sent a message on time. Brr. Lu Qing chuckled softly. Holding head trembling expression, weak chicken shivering in fear. Following that, he added another sentence with an on steroids emoji, "I can only work harder." After a few words, he exited QQ and passed his unlocked phone to En Chaoyang. He bumped fists with En Chaoyang and reminded him repeatedly, "Don't take photos until I'm about to enter the arena. When you post it, don't say anything unless you can." He had run out of excuses and reasons. He could only use En Chaoyang, who was relatively more reliable among the unreliable. Okay. En Chaoyang nodded to show that he knew what to do. He didn't expect Lu Qing to have such a nagging side. After giving instructions on the live broadcast, Lu Qing saw Peng Liyun reach out his fist and bump it with himself. Peng Liyun smiled and said, "Don't make a mistake." Make a mistake? Peng Liyun knows this phrase? Does he know that En Chaoyang and I always talk about him like this during his matches? Hearing this familiar phrase, Lu Qing was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he couldn't help but blush. En Chaoyang couldn't help but cough twice, as if he was caught talking behind someone's back. Caught in the act, huh? Lu Qing laughed dryly and replied, No. At this moment, Renli reached out her fist and looked at him with guilt. She confessed, "It's my fault for spilling the beans." It's okay. Lu Qing said with a forced smile. With such a relaxed feeling, he turned around and walked along the aisle towards the arena. His steps were steady and his momentum was restrained. In the live broadcast post, the atmosphere was lively and cheerful. Do we still need to watch this match? When I wake up, I'm sure it will be news of Lu Qing taking down his opponent again. Okamoto's fan said exaggeratedly. A plumber eating mushrooms retorted out of habit. That's where you're wrong. Drinking cold beer, eating barbecue, and watching an exciting match that you're destined to win, isn't that wonderful? This is what I call enjoyment. You two go squat in the corner. Don't ruin my Lu Qing's character. Eternal nightfall, Yen Shaoling fiercely whistled and gave out red cards. However, her ally Brahmin didn't think so. Wagging tail proudly expression, said, "The snacks are ready. All that's left is the competition." While they were chatting excitedly, Lu Qing was the first to step into the arena. He stood on the left side of the referee and didn't unleash his aura. Instead, he quietly watched as Gusai walked over. This opponent was wearing a dark red monk robe. His figure was tall and sturdy and fat like a shocking mountain of flesh. His skin was suffused with a dark golden luster, and there were many mystical aspects to him. His features were stretched to make him look small, and his expression wasn't as bitter as Waku's. Although his eyes were deep, there was a lack of insight and disgust. While Lu Qing was sizing up his opponent, Gusai was sizing him up as well. He felt that the young man on the arena was in high spirits. With a smile on his face, he was gentle and reserved, like an ordinary college student who posed no threat. However, he gave off the feeling that he was as still as a mountain as he stood there. It was as if the moment he exploded, he would be as terrifying as Mount Tai collapsing. Gusai's breathing became heavier but quickly returned to normal. He slowly stepped onto the arena, and couldn't help but glance at the referee from the corner of his eye. This referee from Miluo Wusheng had a dark face and sparse slick-back hair. His expression was stern and unsmiling, and he didn't respond to Gusai's glance. He was as calm as usual. He was equivalent to an experienced inhuman mighty one. Gusai retracted his gaze and threw all distracting thoughts to the back of his mind. He stood opposite Lu Qing about 10 meters apart. Glancing at the digital clock, Wusheng confirmed that it was about to reach 8:10. He raised his palm and gestured to his left and right. Then he swung his right hand down abruptly. His hoarse voice echoed throughout the arena. "Begin." The third and fourth place match of the King of Youth tournament had officially begun. The muscles on Lu Cheng's thighs suddenly tightened around his trouser legs, revealing distinct lines and contours. At the same time, he swayed his waist and shifted his center of gravity forward, as though he was about to pounce, like a raging blizzard ready to explode. When Gusai instinctively made a leap to the right, he lifted his left leg and stomped forward. It was just a testing step. Snap. As thin cracks spread, Lu Qing stirred up a strong gust of wind and pounced to his left. With one leap, he covered a distance of about 10 meters, just in time to block his dodging opponent. Gusai took in a deep breath and suddenly lowered his body. His dark golden fats were clearly defined, transforming into shocking muscles. He planned to take Lu Cheng's incoming attack head-on with the heart reflection punch. At this moment, Lu Cheng's fascia suddenly twisted, his muscles swelled, and his footsteps corresponded to his movements. He forcibly changed his direction and broke through the air barrier with a bang, creating a close-range wind that blew directly at Gusai's face. Do gang northern wind howling. The strong wind caused Gusai's body to sway slightly. He instinctively closed his eyes, feeling as though a cold knife was scraping against his face. Dodging to the side, Lu Qing shifted his feet inward, twisted his knees and thighs, twisted his waist and back muscles, swung his arms and threw a punch. Bam! The crisp sound entered Gusai's ears. He didn't have time to use the heart reflection punch. Gathering all the strength in his body, he quickly raised his arm to block to the side. Poof! Lu Cheng's fist landed on his forearm, denting it and rippling his fat, but it didn't shake his opponent's body. Twisting his waist and back, Lu Qing shifted his footsteps again. Just as Gusai turned to face him head-on, Lu Qing circled to the side of his opponent again, bent his elbow and rammed into him fiercely. Although he wanted to experience the heart reflection punch and its killer move, the fist of the 6 paths of reincarnation, he wasn't going to be as reckless as Peng Liyun, who went head-on without any preparation. He planned to tangle for a while, fully understand the strength of Gusai's fists and legs, before trying it out. That way, if something went wrong, he would be able to detect it immediately and retaliate in time. He wouldn't be forced to the brink of defeat and play with his heart. Bam bam bam. With his footwork, Lu Qing weaved through flowers and trees, launching 3 consecutive moves, punches, kicks and grabs, to complete a close-range confrontation with Gusai. He had a solid grasp of his opponent's strength. This Theravada monk was indeed gifted. His body could withstand and fight, and his strength was on par with Lu Qing, who was at the inhuman stage. He was only at a slight disadvantage. However, it was clear that they were more inclined towards mental strength and lacked profound fist and leg techniques. With a judgment in mind, Lu Qing pulled away slightly, no longer engaging in close-range combat. He reined in his thoughts and condensed, a cold, round mirror that clearly reflected the scene within a few dozen centimeters around him. It was as though his soul had left his body and was floating in the air, looking down on everything around him emotionlessly. Once he got the ice mirror, Lu Qing immediately withdrew his chi and blood, pulled back his arm and quickly swung his elbow. Bam! He threw a punch like lightning, the high-speed friction against the air and igniting a layer of crimson, almost white flames. It was as though he had put on a flashy glove. With a break, Gusai could finally catch his breath. Channeling his spirit, bitterness surfaced in his eyes. He threw an ordinary straight punch with flowing dark golden light, colliding head-on with Lu Cheng's fire fist. Boom! Flames flew everywhere, and the dark golden light on Gusai's fist faded from the explosion. Affected by both the explosion of Dan force and the shockwave, he took a few steps back, not daring to take it head-on. On the other hand, Lu Qing felt discomfort in his throat. His lungs tightened as though they were burning. He couldn't breathe as though he was suffering from a serious illness. Not only that, he also experienced the weakness of his body. It was as though he had been bedridden for a long time, no longer able to dominate the arena. Heart reflection punch, illness. In life, the torment of illness was unavoidable. Everyone would experience it a few times. The memories hidden in Lu Cheng's body were triggered, resonating with Gusai's fist intent. He broke through his past and was infected with a serious illness. His fists and legs became weak, as though he could only watch as his opponent threw a punch at him. His defensive movements were abnormally slow. It was a very real feeling. But in Lu Cheng's condescending view in the reflection of the ice mirror, his blood was surging, roaring as it circulated. His muscles were young and vigorous, ready to break walls and crack the ground at any time. There was no sign of illness at all. Everything that happened before was an illusion, produced by his brain under the influence of external waves. His brain secreted the corresponding hormones, deepening the sense of reality. It's good to be healthy. Lu Qing couldn't help but sigh as he felt the contrast between his seriously ill body and his real body. He took half a step forward with his left foot, expanding his muscles. His right fist struck out with a bang, blocking Gusai's fist that was trying to sneak up on him. With a muffled bang, both fists seemed to be out of shape. Gusai's monk robes swayed, almost ignited by the flames. He hurriedly took half a step back, a bitter look on his face as he swung his arm in reverse. Heart reflection punch, pain? Lu Qing of course chose to take it head-on. He gathered and released his chi and blood, thickening his left arm. He threw a vicious punch without dodging. The surrounding temperature dropped abruptly, condensing into water droplets and white mist. They clustered around the sparkling fist, and as it struck Gusai's forearm, the muscles caved in and turned into fat, and the dark gold turned into a greenish white. In that instant, Gusai was forced back 2 meters, his feet leaving clear marks on the ground. His arms and forearms were covered in white frost, and his lips trembled from the cold. Lu Qing heard his stomach growling and felt an uncontrollable hunger. It was as though he had turned into an ascetic monk, living under strict discipline, enduring the sun and rain, begging for a living and refusing to eat past noon. Dry and tasteless food, eating without any pleasure, and the discomfort of being so hungry that his hand was about to reach out from his throat assaulted his mind. He couldn't wait to admit defeat, turn around and rush back to the restaurant to gorge himself on food. No, he should hurry back to his country and feast on the various delicacies he had been missing for a long time. Stir-fried eel, Old Lou's grilled eggplant, roasted beef with potatoes, stewed pork ribs with lotus roots, tomato and egg soup, fish-flavored shredded pork, spicy crab, braised crayfish. Images flashed through Lu Cheng's mind, making him more aware of the torment of an ascetic monk. Bam! He mustered all the strength in his body, swung his arms violently, and threw a punch. Fight for the delicacies. Of course, the ice mirror was only a ripple, not broken. It clearly reflected the reality that he wasn't hungry. This allowed him to control his emotions and not be anxious or impatient. Bam! Gusai, who had just turned around and pounced, was forced back again. The ground cracked under his feet. Shock flashed through his mind. He couldn't believe that Lu Qing could unleash such ferocious strength in his hungry state. Food is the god of the people. Lu Qing swallowed, stretched his body and chased after him. His muscles were defined and firm, as though he was a deity who had descended to earth. Again, he shouted to himself. With great interest, he swung out his right arm, turning his fist into a spear and thrusting it at Gusai's throat. The Emperor Yin force contained in it ignited the surrounding air, causing it to contract inward like a ball of fire. Gusai's eyes blazed with white light. He didn't dare to hold back or test his strength anymore. He hurriedly channeled his spirit and burst forth with the 5 skandhas light in his eyes. He stepped forward, swung his arm and charged forward silently. 6 paths of reincarnation punch, hungry ghost sect. He wanted to use his unrestrained greed to secretly influence his opponent's mind. He wanted Lu Qing to become more and more impatient as the fight went on. The more he fought, the more he would neglect other issues and only have the impulse to take him down in one go. This was an extremely difficult fist force to detect. The victim was usually unaware of it. By the time they realized it and tried to suppress it, it was already too late. They were already on the brink of failure or had already failed. That was why Gusai used it as a prelude. Boom. The ball of fire exploded, the flames rolling. The monk robe on Gusai's arm was shredded inch by inch. Cracks appeared on the dark golden luster. His other palm was spread out in front of his face as he staggered backwards to neutralize the impact of the Emperor Yen force. In terms of power alone, no one would dare to be ranked in the top 3 if this core force of the fire sect was ranked 4th. Ripples appeared on Lu Cheng's ice mirror. The crystalline layer seemed to be about to crack, but it also revealed the spy who had infiltrated it. Prepared and suppressed, the fist will of the hungry ghost sect was detected just like that. That's pretty amazing. Turning water into ice and calming his mind, Lu Qing suppressed his impatience and cut off his greed. His punches and kicks were well behaved, showing no flaws. He fought steadily. Gusai was secretly surprised. He added 2 more rounds of hungry ghost sect, but it still didn't affect his opponent. He had no choice but to change the fist force in his eyes. Calm and unperturbed, he took a deep breath, arched his back slightly, raised his arm high and swung his fist down. It seemed fast and fierce, but it didn't stir up any wind. Lu Qing lowered his waist and raised his right arm, which was across his lower abdomen, and struck out in the opposite direction. It collided with his opponent's fist in midair, creating a reverberating sound. His emotions fell and returned to calmness. All of a sudden the battle was meaningless. The competition was meaningless, and defeating his opponent was even more meaningless. Why am I standing here? Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? At this very moment, Lu Qing seemed to have entered the sage hour. He was no longer interested in worldly matters. He was pondering about philosophical questions about the world and himself. His interest in Gusai's elbow was waning. 6 paths of reincarnation punch, path of the Deva. This could help one overcome desires, eliminate emotions and distance oneself from the hell of the heart. When used in battle, it could neutralize the opponent's fighting spirit and reduce the secretion of the corresponding hormones. It would make the opponent lazy and not want to defend. Even if they tried to block instinctively, they wouldn't be able to muster the energy. The 6 paths of reincarnation had their own mysteries. However, this state had the same effect as the ice mirror. Both were designed to subdue one's emotions and prevent interference. Lu Qing quickly adapted to it. The lake in his heart perfectly reflected his own situation. With the cold and merciless will of the heavens, he began to drive the operation of his physical body. Hormones were secreted and his muscles swelled. Lu Qing twisted his waist and swung his arm, pushing out his left hand. His palm was empty as it held Gusai's elbow. Flames quickly gathered and were about to explode. Gusai hurriedly retracted his elbow to avoid the explosion. He felt as if his opponent was like a god or an immortal. Under the 6 paths of reincarnation he didn't react at all. The light in his eyes turned red. His mental corruption transformed into force. Lifting his waist, he tightened his legs and did a low kick. When Lu Qing swung his leg to block, he clenched his fist and struck horizontally like a hammer. Bam! Lu Qing raised his arm to block. The fighting spirit in his heart surged. His blood flowed faster, stimulating his muscles and activating his fascia. The desire for violence filled his entire body, causing his eyes to turn slightly red. 6 paths of reincarnation punch, path of Azura. The ice mirror cracked and the ripples almost turned into waves. Lu Qing barely managed to hold on. He was pleasantly surprised to see that his chi and blood had become more active under the influence of the fist force of Azura path. The hidden strength in his muscles had been activated. It was similar to the state when he used the fighting formula, but not as exaggerated. This isn't bad. Lu Qing got to know his body from a different perspective. He grasped the subtle changes in his muscles, fascia, organs, and spirit under the influence of bloodlust and desire for violence. For example, the accelerated metabolism at the cellular level. There were pros and cons, but they were all worth studying. After digesting this time's harvest, the effects of his fighting formula would increase by at least 20%. Haha, taking it easy and experiencing the 6 paths of reincarnation punch was the right choice. Lu Cheng's muscles swelled and his body stretched. He transformed into a giant. Taking a step forward, he shook his arm and swung it down from above. Gusai's feet sank into the ground, his fat jiggling. Bam 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 bam. Taking advantage of the influence of the path of Azura, he attacked continuously as if he had taken a stimulant pill. Gusai was frustrated and almost lost. Throughout the process, Gusai didn't see any sign of Lu Cheng losing his rationality. What a monster. Does the 6 paths of reincarnation punch have no effect on him? Or is it because I haven't mastered it? Deep doubts rose in Gusai's heart. He had doubts about the world, about life, and about himself. He almost had the urge to throw everything away. Fortunately, he had some success with the 16 insights. He checked his thoughts and calmed his emotions. His eyes glowed with the colors of the mortal world. Bam! Gusai's fat jiggled again, turning into muscles. He spread one arm and clenched his fist, ready for a punch. 6 paths of reincarnation punch, path of man. At that moment, a violent force suddenly surged into his body. Stimulated, his spirit soared. Gusai glanced at the referee Wu Sheng from the corner of his eye. He was still expressionless, solemn, and didn't even look at him. However, his left arm was lowered at some point, facing him. An almost imperceptible flash of dark blue flashed across it. They've really communicated. Is this the critical moment? With a quick thought, Gusai ignored this matter. Using his unprecedentedly good condition, he pushed the will of the human world to its limits. After his attack was blocked by Lu Cheng's flaming fist, he channeled his force into it and rotated naturally, turning the human world into hell. Once one's emotions reached an extreme, living beings would suffer unbearable torment. Hell didn't exist anywhere, only the human heart. One thought of man, hell. This was the highest secret of the 6 paths of reincarnation punch, the 6 paths of reincarnation punch that even Waka hadn't mastered yet. Both the path of man and the path of hell combined. Boom. Emperor Yin force exploded. Waves of fire rolled wildly, forcing Gusai to tilt his body and take a few steps back. Only then did he manage to avoid the brunt of the attack and block the aftershock. Lu Cheng's vision blurred as if 10 years had passed in an instant. In these 10 years, from the initial passionate exchanges between the two countries, to the time when he and Yanjika had more things to do, the frequency of their meetings gradually decreased. The content of their chats went from sharing every interesting thing with each other to neglecting some topics due to their busy schedules. Every conversation seemed to have become a mission, becoming more monotonous and less interesting. After 2 or 3 scandals, suspicion grew, and the time spent together became more and more tiring. Unknowingly, this relationship came to an end. At that time, he even felt a sense of relief. 10 years later, he, who already had another partner, returned to school to participate in the celebration. When he returned to the bridge at night, he suddenly saw a familiar figure. She was wearing an intellectual white shirt and an elegant knee-length skirt. She stood there, gazing at the Weishui Lake. Her face was still beautiful, but there was a hint of maturity in it. "Are you all right?" After a moment of silence, he took the initiative to greet her. "Pretty good." Yanjika nodded with a smile. Without stopping, she brushed past him. When she was about to leave, she turned her back to him and said with a half-smile, half-sigh, "When you confessed, you said you would wait for me forever." The feelings buried deep in his heart for many years burst forth, setting off an unimaginable storm. He wanted to turn around and salvage the situation, but when he saw the wedding ring on his finger, he forced himself to hold back. The slender and beautiful figure gradually disappeared into the distance. His heart was emptied, filled with intense regret. Every time he thought about it, he felt as if he had lost himself. When he heard that she had walked into the hall of marriage and sat by the riverside for an entire night, so many youthful things had gone down the drain. At this moment, seeing that his enemy was finally in a daze, Gusai rushed over and swung his arm, ready to throw a punch. Another 10 years passed and another long time passed. When his hair turned white, there was no one beside him to sing, "When you're old." Regret filled him, never to disappear. Pain pierced his heart, etched deep in his heart. The scene before him swayed, and he fell into a painful regret, unable to extricate himself. All he wanted was to start all over again and never give up. "No, this is not the future I want." His emotions churned, triggering ice and fire. He wanted to throw a punch at his detestable self and detestable fate. Ice and fire balanced, triggering Nebula. This was the first time he tried it in actual combat since he could slightly manipulate the power of Jindan. He tried his best to make up for what he could and to redeem what he could. Bam! His body suddenly grew taller, his eyes filled with pain and malevolence as he threw a punch. It was faster than Gusai could imagine, and the cannon punch that won him the victory was hit before it could reach its peak. Boom! Shockwaves exploded. Gusai, who felt the ridiculous pressure, was astonished. His right arm was flung away and bounced back, hitting his chest, shattering the dark gold and almost breaking his bones. Lu Qing roared, taking a step forward and swinging his fist, hitting his enemy's hastily raised left arm. The violent force was completely unleashed. Bam! Crack! Gusai was sent flying amidst the overlapping sounds. His arm was fractured, his chest caved in, and he almost fainted from the heavy injuries. He stood there in a daze, not understanding what had just happened. The spectators fell into silence, unable to believe what they were seeing. Lu Cheng's 2 punches were terrifying to the extreme, as if he was a ferocious beast in human form. And the external force in Gusai's body was completely dispersed before it could withdraw. Seeing his opponent fall to the ground, powerless to stand, Lu Cheng finally came to his senses. He realized that it was all an illusion that filled him with pain just thinking about it. Is this because my uncertainty and fear of being in a foreign country have been magnified? Although the experience was illusory, it made sense. He had to learn from his experience and not make the same mistake again. He couldn't regret it for the rest of his life. The referee took a deep breath as if suppressing something. He raised his right hand and shouted hoarsely, "Lu Qing wins." Lu Qing shook his head, bowed, and turned to leave the arena. He cursed Peng Liyun and Yin Chaoyang in his heart as he felt the weakness from using the power of the Jindan. Those 2 unreliable bastards saying that Gusai's 6 paths of reincarnation punch was just SOSO, and that he could withstand it if he was prepared. Who are they kidding? In the cycle of life just now, he had lost his mind and almost lost. Just as he was about to step onto the stone steps, the referee behind him, Wu Sheng, suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the pothole in front of him red. The referee? The referee spat blood too? The spectators stared at each other, confused. Why did he spit blood? Chapter 486. After spitting out a mouthful of blood uncontrollably, Wu Sheng's expression changed instantly. It was so gloomy that it looked like water droplets could drip from it. After creating such an abnormal situation, he could already imagine the shock, guesses, and accusations of others. What was supposed to be a well-hidden and impossible-to-be-exposed matter was now exposed to the audience. His reputation was undoubtedly going to plummet. Gusai's eyes were filled with confusion, reflecting the crimson spray from the referee. He felt that everything was so illusory, as though he was possessed by the extraterrestrial demon and had participated in such a farce. What was even more unacceptable was that he still lost. He was caught off guard and lost without any temper. At the very last moment, Lu Qing actually unleashed a power that was even more terrifying than the fighting formula. He suddenly felt like laughing. Laughing at the vanity, laughing at the desire, laughing at everything in the world, and laughing at his own greed. Not good. Is Gusai out of his mind? Seeing the changes in the fat monk's expression clearly displayed on the big screen, the audience was shocked after their initial confusion. They suspected that Gusai had been beaten silly and had broken down. Waka's brows furrowed slightly. With a few steps he was already on the stage. Clenching his right fist, he punched the back of Gusai's head, knocking him unconscious. Half carrying, he was sent to the emergency room. He didn't look like he had realized the falsehood of his body, mind, and world, and thus developed feelings of disgust and abandonment. Instead, he looked like he had gone to the extreme and was blinded by the extraterrestrial demon. He had to be stopped decisively, otherwise he would really go crazy. Looking at the crowd and everything that happened, the Xinjiang team leader's face gradually turned pale, as though he was seriously ill and injured. Now that things had developed to this stage, he could already see his end and imagine the punishment he would receive. It was as though a tragedy was about to unfold. You can't even win against Lu Qing with the help of the referee, Gusai, you piece of trash, piece of trash. It doesn't matter if you're a piece of trash, but you're implicating me. What's wrong, Fatty 4? In the live thread, Eternal Nightfall, Yen Shaoling sent an emoji. I don't watch many matches, but you can't lie to me. Since when did the referee get injured? I suspect that I'm watching a fake match. Unparalleled Dragon King gave the same reaction. Pig Riding Knight wiped off his cold sweat and said, yeah. Although the referees would occasionally suffer a certain amount of backlash in order to prevent fatal collisions between the two parties, but it wouldn't be to the extent of vomiting blood. What the F***ck is going on? As the saying goes, there must be something behind the scenes. Of course, mighty fighters of the fourth pin of the same level would be of the mighty ones of the seniors, of mighty of the mighty of the mighty of the mighty of mighty of to be of the mighty one like that, of mighty of the of PTO. LOY, to be as expected. To be a B like. Invincible Punch replied, could it be that the referee was already injured and was affected by the shockwave and fire of Emperor Yen force, and finally couldn't suppress it anymore? How is that possible? It's not like they can't find another referee. If he's injured, they can just find another one, a plumber eating mushrooms retorted. Within human control? How can they not know if he's injured or not? There must be some dirty-ass deal. Okamoto's fan used Beethoven's face as an emoji. At this moment, Unparalleled Dragon King, who had been silent for a while, said, I just checked the referee's information. I found out that his mutated ability is very interesting. It's called resonance. Every time his opponent collides with him, he will feel the impact. In other words, he will suffer a certain percentage of the backlash. Now that sounds a little weird. Since resonance can transmit impacts and damage, can it also transmit positive effects, such as an increase in strength or spirit? Pig riding Knight threw out a guess in puzzlement. Blind student, you found the highlight. That's what I thought too. The referee used resonance to help Gusai and wanted him to get third place. Who knew that Lu Qing would suddenly explode and injure Gusai? At that moment, his resonance had yet to be interrupted, so he suffered the corresponding backlash damage. There's no way he would vomit blood for no reason, said Unparalleled Dragon King with an emoji pointing at Conan in front of him. Yaya so shady. Brahmin scored full marks for reading comprehension. Xingxiang is too shameless. Not only is the drawing of lots shady, they even bribed the referee to help. Above the Sky was indignant at such an unfair situation. How sinister. They knew that Lu Qing had the supernatural ability to reflect curses, so they didn't dare to attack him directly. Therefore they found a referee who could help Gusai improve. If he really wins, they can just say that the Theravada sect has a secret technique to complete a mental outburst. No one will be able to tell anything from the video, and Lu Qing won't suspect anything either. Clenched fist and pounding table expression. I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen such shameless people. The atmosphere in Nanyang has always been shady. I saw the same speculation in the forums in Japan. They said that Xinjiang, Miluo, and Nanjing all had a record of cheating and bribing referees. They're so heartless and shady. I don't want to play with them in the future. Haha, Lu Qing won 1 against 2. He even made the referee vomit blood and exposed the truth. That's so satisfying. So satisfying. Let's see how Xinjiang is going to face international public opinion. What's there to be afraid of? What's there to be afraid of? He even won. This is so satisfying. Sarcasm, exclamations and indignant comments sprung up like bamboo shoots after the rain, making the live post extremely lively. However, because Lu Qing still won 1 versus 2, and even inflicted heavy damage on his opponent and injured the referee, the matter was exposed to the public. Therefore no one felt sullen or angry. I finally understand what you guys are saying. I'm so angry. I'm going to complain, I'm going to protest. Yin Shaoling finally figured out what was going on. Also, my Adonis is so handsome. Lu Qing has been promoted to your Adonis? Indeed, being able to win against 2 wasn't something that just anyone could do. In the past 10 years, he's the first contestant to make the referee vomit blood. Unparalleled Dragon King sighed, then continued, I think it's useless for you to protest. Xinjiang will definitely not admit to it. Let's wait and see how they explain it. Let's see how weird it is. You can't say that Lu Qing injured the referee with a fart, right? Okamoto's fan said with his omnipotent, funny face. Amidst the various opinions, Lu Qing was also stunned by the situation behind him. He had fought in so many matches and watched so many battle videos, but he had never seen a referee vomit blood. Who would have thought that it would happen to him today? That's strange. He frowned slightly, his thoughts racing as he walked back to the spectator stand. Impressive, winning in a 1v2. Peng Liyun gave him a fist bump. 1 against 2. Lu Qing came to a realization. The referee is secretly helping Gusai? No wonder his 6 paths of reincarnation became so powerful. I apologize. Priest and hipster are not scammers. The 6 paths of reincarnation became so powerful all of a sudden? Then the referee must have helped. An Chaoyang blurted out, feeling that he had completed the chain of evidence. Let's go besiege the referee and demand an explanation. Ren Li's eyes lit up, eager to try. Don't make a fuss about this. I'll protest to the officials and get the embassy to step in. Zhong Ningtao quickly pacified the heavenly sons of the era. If they really went on a rampage, they would be equivalent to a mobile ammunition depot. Lu Qing had already won, so he didn't feel much anger. Instead, he was secretly pleased. Who asked you to trick me? Now you're in trouble. You went for wool and came home shorn. Gusai, so what if someone helped you? I still won, didn't I? And I was fooling around most of the time. He shook his head, annoyed and amused. Then I'll leave it to you, leader. I want to see what reason Xingxiang will come up with. He was now more afraid of what he had experienced in the Wheel of Life. He couldn't wait to take back his phone from An Chaoyang and unlock the screen. Yan Zhika had already sent him a message with a dumbfounded expression. Qing, what happened in the end? Why can't I understand? You defeated Gusai in 2 punches? The referee even vomited blood. The referee might have helped Gusai in secret, so he suffered from the backlash. Lu Qing skimmed over the matter and changed the topic to what he had experienced in the instant 10 years. In the end, he said with lingering fear, thinking back, I'm still afraid of that regret. There was an indescribable pain in his heart. Yan Zhika stared blankly at him, then pursed her lips and laughed. She was laughing at the stupid Cheng's fear. Then she chided him. Are you stupid? How can we end up without a cause? If it really comes to that, we still have to go through the divorce procedures. As long as we meet, we'll definitely be reluctant to part with each other, but we'll reconcile. Lu Qing was stunned. He blushed and replied, Yeah, I forgot about that. We've gotten our marriage certificate. Idiot! Scolded Yan Zhika. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. But it's good to have such an experience. You have to summarize it seriously and write down your thoughts. Clearly mark out the things you need to avoid in your mentality. Okay? Nodding vigorously expression. You really need to write a summary and send it to me. I'll supervise you according to the rules. Wiping hair expression, Yan Zhika replied. Yeah, I'll also look at this summary, often to remind myself what to avoid and never forget my original intention. Due to the uproar and pressure from the Chinese embassy, 10 minutes before the start of the finals, the organizing committee reported the abnormality in the 3rd and 4th place match. The referee of Miluo Wu Sheng has an old injury. He was affected by the explosion created by Lu Qing and was injured by his fist wind. He vomited blood. This is not cheating. Sitting in the lounge, Wu Sheng heard the explanation from the broadcast. He clenched his right hand tightly and crushed a metal ball. He would rather be punished by the organizing committee than receive such a description. As an experienced mighty one, he was injured by the fist wind of a junior. Where would he put his face? What is the fist wind? It's the wind brought by the fist. If I can be injured like this, how can I face others in the future? Receiving money is at most a problem with my character, but this is a matter of my pride as a boxer. Haha, the fist wind, the fist wind. In the live broadcast post and various forums, people were pounding the ground and laughing at this explanation. It's just like giving away 300 taels of silver. Strong Lu Qing, the fist wind hurts the inhuman, and the look in his eyes kills the dance stage. Someone commented. Chapter 487. Fist wind, fist wind. Fist wind. Hearing the announcement, Lu Qing almost punched the wall and laughed out loud. He praised the committee for being so blind and thick-skinned. When I go out in the future, I can add a sentence, hurt by a scratch, die by a touch, can hit an inhuman from a distance. How cool, how strong, how tough. After sharing the news with Yan Zhika, he looked at Peng Liyun who had just stopped laughing. Priest, it's about time to go out. Only a few minutes left. Less than 4 minutes to the start of the finals. Peng Liyun, who had already changed into his martial arts suit, stood up slowly and walked towards the door of the changing room. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped and looked back at Lu Qing, who was following behind him. He asked in confusion, "What did you call me just now?" "Priest." Lu Qing answered honestly and explained with a smile, "Look, you're a disciple of Shangqing sect and you're studying the mysteries of nature. You're always in a state of cultivation. If you're not a priest, what are you?" "Not bad." Peng Liyun didn't have much resistance to the new nickname. He opened the door and walked out. And Chaoyang caught up with him and walked beside him. He glanced at him and said, Don't tell me you've been thinking of nicknames for us when you have nothing to do these few days? No, no such thing. Lu Qing laughed dryly and shook his head. Do I look like such a boring person? It's just that when I'm chatting with Talker, that guy always brings me in this direction. And Chaoyang didn't believe him and asked, Tell me, what's the nickname you gave me? I can accept it if it's not too weird. Hipster artistic youth. Lu Qing answered without hesitation. And Chaoyang heaved a sigh of relief and nodded with a smile. It suits me. Looks like Lu Qing really thinks that I'm more reliable from the bottom of his heart. The corner of Lu Qing's mouth twitched. He didn't know how to explain that the hipster, in his context, was someone who lived in his own world and liked to be sentimental. Once he entered the real world, he would always be out of tune and make people feel uneasy. Oh yeah, what nickname did you give Renli? And Chaoyang asked curiously as he looked at Renli, who was being watched closely by the team leader. Lu Qing laughed and denied without hesitation, No, I really don't. Really? And Chaoyang asked. Yes. Lu Qing answered seriously. Seeing this, and Chaoyang did not ask further and threw the matter to the back of his mind. Lu Qing heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the non-existent cold sweat. He almost never gave girls nicknames because he felt that it was disrespectful. However, if Renli found out about his casual discussion with Little Ming, she would probably chase him down several streets. That day, that night, that conversation went like this. What kind of person is Renli normally? Kai Zhongming had always been curious about beautiful girls, but he only looked at them from afar and never got close. Late stage of having a bad sense of direction, moderate face blindness, very confident in everything and dares to do it. He likes to argue with people on the internet and has a tendency to do so in real life as well. He's very happy to cause trouble, Lu Qing described truthfully. Small stature, big eyes, and likes to cause trouble. Isn't this a chihuahua? Xiaoming's imagination was quite rich. Lu Qing was stunned for a moment and almost burst out laughing. He immediately took a screenshot and said, Tell me, if I show this to Renli, how many days do you think you can live? You make it sound like I was the one who said all those things. Kai Zhongming replied disdainfully. Come on, let's hurt each other. You and I are different. I have the ability to protect myself, but you don't. Renli even knows how to curse. First bow, second bow, third bow, family member returns the bow, said Lu Qing, shaking body smile. I'm on my knees. Kai Zhongming immediately sent a kneeling emoji and started to beg for mercy shamelessly. After thinking about it, Lu Qing decided to pretend that this never happened. He tilted his head and smiled politely at Renli. He sat on the spectator stand and watched Peng Liyun walk up the stone stairs. 2 minutes later, both parties stood at about 13 to 14 meters apart. The referee started to look at the clock, waiting for the hour. How do you think Taoist will start the match? Han Chaoyang asked Lu Qing with interest. You're pretty good at learning nicknames, Lu Qing thought. Kaori Karasawa has the Xidagarba takedown. If you use the flash attack, you'll be at a disadvantage. If it were me, I'd purposely slow down and wait for the opponent to make the first move. Since there's still a distance of about 10 meters, there's enough time to react accordingly. Renli happily joined in the discussion. While they were conversing, the referee raised his right hand and swung it down abruptly. He shouted, Begin. The last match of the competition officially began. The winner ascended to the throne, and the loser was no different from the rest. Just as the referee finished speaking, Kaori Karasawa leaned her body slightly, took a step forward with her left foot, and appeared in a position where she could attack Peng Liyun in an instant. The distance of 10 meters seemed like an illusion to the audience. Xinzhai sect, shrinking ground. Bam. The airflow formed a barrier and was knocked away. Kaori Karasawa's right fist, which was placed on the left side of her waist, was about to pull out for a reverse chop. Shrinking ground, pulling out the sword. The two were connected smoothly as if it was only one movement. It was unusually tight and perfect. Compared to the battle with Lu Qing, Kaori Karasawa had given it her all. However, before she could swing her right arm, a palm flashing with silver-white lightning appeared on the back of her fist. The palm pressed down and pressed the glowing long saber back into the scabbard. Similar to the judgment of the 3 members of the unreliable heavenly band, Peng Liyun slowed down for half a beat before making his move. Leaping half a step towards Kaori Karasawa, he closed in and pressed his right palm at lightning speed, breaking her pulling out. Amidst the crackling lightning, he twisted his waist and smashed his left elbow towards his opponent, forcing Kaori Karasawa to pull the right side of her body away from the front to the side. As she dodged, she flicked her scabbard and swung her left fist upwards, creating a streak of white light. Within the confines of the arena, the two of them exchanged blows and collided repeatedly. They used all of their skills in close-quarters combat, grappling and joint techniques to the fullest. At times, there would be loud bangs, and at other times, there would be silent entanglements. It was a thrilling sight. It was a feast for the eyes of Lu Cheng and the rest. They took the opportunity to examine themselves and look for problems. Priest's initial response was just as we expected. That means he wasn't careless, it wasn't easy. Apart from the battle with Renli, he was finally not reckless. In the midst of the battle, Peng Liyun, who had been monitoring the slightest movements with a portion of his attention, suddenly heard an undetectable crack. It was heavy and powerful, making one's heart tremble. Good timing, Peng Liyun exclaimed. Just as Kaori Karasawa was about to pull back her arms, he clapped his palms together, causing a clap of thunder on the ground. Boom. The thunder was deafening and shook one's mind. Kaori Karasawa's head buzzed. The force of the flying dragon takedown that she had been accumulating was almost dispersed, causing her hand movements to slow down. It was this delay that allowed Peng Liyun to separate his palms and pull out a thin, flashing thunder sword. At this point, even if the flying dragon takedown could be released, it wouldn't make it in time. No matter how fast it was, could it be faster than lightning? Lightning flashed and struck Kaori Karasawa, leaving behind a charred mark. Her muscles trembled from the impact, and the momentum she had accumulated dissipated. Crack. Peng Liyun stepped on the ground and rushed over. Visualizing a green jade talisman, he struck out with the Thunder Seal fist. Kaori Karasawa wasn't severely paralyzed and woke up in time. Her body glowed with a white glow, her clothes suddenly puffed up. Her right arm struck out horizontally, narrowly hitting her opponent's fist. Bzzz. Her hair was a little fluffy and her arm was surrounded by lightning, giving off a burnt smell and faint smoke. But it was enough to make Peng Liyun's body wobble. His right hand hurt and he instinctively swung it. Thump, thump, thump. Kaori Karasawa took the initiative to back away and create some distance between them. She was trying to buy time to dispel the paralysis with the chi she had cultivated. When Peng Liyun pounced on her again, she arched her body slightly, producing a soft crack. This time it was faster and more urgent than the previous time. Her opponent didn't even have time to unleash the thunder from a clear sky. Shinjai Sect Flying Bird Takedown. Bam. Amidst the explosive sound, Kaori Karasawa pulled back her left arm, leaving behind afterimages as she struck at her opponent. At this critical moment, she couldn't care less that the battle had only been going on for 2 to 3 minutes. Peng Liyun lowered his waist. When his footsteps came to a halt, his body jerked backward, changing the direction of his fist as though he was trying to pry open a boulder. It bounced upwards and accurately broke through Kaori Karasawa's blade gleam. It hit her arm and blocked her opponent's counterattack. But Kaori Karasawa's right hand was already in the shape of a blade. She slashed out continuously at the same speed and with the same ferocity. She looked like she wanted to end the battle in an instant. At this moment, the sound of a vortex spinning madly came from Peng Liyun's body. It was stacked on top of one another, brimming with an obvious sense of accumulating strength. A strong repulsive force was suddenly produced between him and Kaori Karasawa. It obstructed his opponent's attack and slowed her speed. Bam! Peng Liyun threw out a punch, hitting the side of the blade. He used the repulsive force and the rebound to leap back, widening the distance between them. This prevented Kaori Karasawa's triple aerial attack from completing and had to be stopped prematurely. No matter how fast the blade was, it was useless if it couldn't hit the opponent. However, Kaori Karasawa managed to stabilize the situation and was no longer in a precarious situation like before. As the fierce battle resumed, she became more cautious. She knew that Peng Liyun had most likely learned the secret of the flying dragon takedown from Lu Cheng. Hence, she didn't dare to use this sure kill move recklessly. She didn't want to expose her weakness and be caught by her opponent, putting her in a passive position like before. Without the deterrence of the flying dragon takedown and lacking a weapon, Kaori Karasawa was gradually at a disadvantage in terms of punches and kicks. She was accumulating more and more numbness and had to divert quite a bit of her chi to neutralize it. If it wasn't for the fact that she still had the aerial attack to force Peng Liyun back and that her opponent had to spend some effort on defending against the flying dragon takedown, she would have already swallowed the bitter pill of defeat. After a few minutes, Kaori Karasawa knew that this couldn't go on. With a thought, she came up with a plan. At this moment, Peng Liyun heard the faint but deep cracking sound again. Without hesitation, he clapped his palms together again and created the thunder from a clear sky. Amidst the rumbling sound, Kaori Karasawa's eyes didn't waver, as though she had been prepared for it. She took a step forward and dodged to the side in an attempt to let the cloudless thunder blade strike empty air. She had prepared for the flying dragon takedown to trick Peng Liyun into making the first move. Then she would seize the fleeting opportunity to execute the sure kill move and destroy the enemy. The cracking sound came again. Kaori Karasawa's expression changed because Peng Liyun's palms were still tightly clasped together. In order to maintain this state, sweat beaded on his forehead. It was very strenuous for him. The cloudless thunder blade could be activated with delay. After knowing that Kaori Karasawa wouldn't use the flying dragon takedown again, how could Peng Liyun not be on guard? Bam! A flash of silver struck Kaori Karasawa again, paralyzing her entire body and causing her to tremble. She no longer had the energy to execute the flying dragon takedown or the flying bird takedown. Taking a step forward, Peng Liyun struck out with the machine punch. As his chi and blood retracted and his tendons tightened, he attacked wildly, almost creating a series of afterimages. Still numb, Kaori Karasawa blocked a few blows before she couldn't keep up with the movements. She could only watch as her opponent's fist stopped in front of her. She heard the referee announce the result. Peng Liyun wins. Phew. Peng Liyun exhaled but felt a little regretful. Sigh, I didn't get to experience the flying dragon takedown for myself. But then again, if it wasn't for Lu Cheng's warning, this battle would have been very difficult for him. There was even a high chance that he would have lost. Chapter 488. Peng Liyun wins. With the referee's announcement, the multi-day King of Youth tournament finally came to an end. Only the reverberating cheers made the ending of the story even more moving. Kaori Karasawa channeled her chi throughout her body. Her body glowed and her muscles trembled slightly. She slowly walked down the arena, her slender figure looking slightly lonely. In this match she was completely passive. Although the battle was intense for a long time, she didn't pose much of a threat to Peng Liyun. Her flying dragon takedown, which she relied on the most, had become her weakness. It was exploited and targeted by her opponent, which was one of the main reasons for her loss. Thinking about that, Kaori Karasawa recalled the battle between Peng Liyun and Renli. They didn't use their sure kill move in the first half of the match. It wasn't because they didn't have the ability, but because they didn't dare to. Once their build-up was interrupted, or the sure kill move failed to hit the enemy, it would expose their flaws and give their opponent a good chance. Am I relying too much on flying dragon takedown? Kaori Karasawa looked at the silent Japanese delegation, a thought suddenly forming in her mind. Ever since she mastered flying dragon takedown, no matter what kind of opponent she faced, she could make them fear and avoid her. She never thought that she would one day lose to this ultimate move. No matter how strong it is, I should only use it at the most appropriate time. The most appropriate time. Kaori Karasawa pondered. She began to reflect on her past experiences and lessons learned. Peng-kun, I will do my best to catch up to you. I look forward to our next battle soon. When that time comes, I will bring my Fugumaru. After a round of congratulations and award ceremony, Lu Cheng, Peng Liyun, and the rest returned to the hotel. In the lobby, the leader, Zhong Ningtao, clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Congratulations on completing the mission. Congratulations to all of you for exceeding the quota. As for the reward, it will be handled by us and will be transferred to your account within 5 working days. Have a good rest tonight. Tomorrow's flight is at 5 p.m. Would you like to take a stroll around Fulua or go directly to the airport's duty-free shop?" "I'm fine with either," and Chaoyang answered casually. Peng Liyun also had the same attitude. Renli, on the other hand, was lost in thought. Lu Cheng glanced at his phone and suggested, "Let's shop in Fulua. There are some things you can't buy in the duty-free shop." Fortunately, with Ko Qian's reminder, she finally remembered that she was going abroad. How could she not bring some gifts for her parents and grandpa? After an intense discussion, the list had been made. She even flipped through the strategy guide to decide where to buy the gifts. Of course, his wife also needed a gift. "Alright, let's go to Fulua then. We should have some time to go to the duty-free shop when we arrive at the airport." Zhong Ningtao made a quick decision. Without mentioning the matter of shopping, the few of them successfully caught the plane and arrived at Huahai at night. As they waved goodbye to each other, Lu Cheng noticed that Renli was using WeChat to contact the person who was going to pick her up. "Taoist, hipster, you guys should have given me nicknames, right? What is it?" Generally speaking, all nicknames were equal. There was no reason that only he could give others a name. Hearing this question, Peng Liyun and Chaoyang and Renli looked at each other and shook their heads. Oh, really? Lu Qing asked again in doubt. Really? The three of them nodded vigorously. Alright, you guys are really good kids. Lu Qing looked at the time and said goodbye to his friends who didn't rely on the Heavenly Score Group. Then he left the airport and headed to a 5-star hotel opened by the Ice God sect in Huahai. After the second day of training, he took the high-speed rail to Moshang to visit his master and receive some advice. In the afternoon he left Shanggao Airport and flew back to Xing Province. After a long journey he finally stood at the door of his house. It was already 7 o'clock in the evening. Hey, where are my mom and dad? After opening the door and entering the house, he only saw his cousin Qi Yunfei. She had remedial classes during the summer and would live here before school started. In other words, he would have to sleep on the sofa for a few more days. Qin Xiaoxiao had officially started her 3rd year of junior high school and did not follow her sister to fool around. Qi Yunfei rested her elbows on the armrest of the sofa and looked at her cousin with a smile. I said that someone in the community is in trouble, so I'm going to help. You can eat first. The food is not cold yet. Also, I brought you fried dumplings. It's a big bag. Hey, do you still remember your brother? Lu Qing put down his backpack and sat at the table. He opened the bag and immediately smelled the rich aroma of saliva. Different from other places, there were only 2 ways to eat dumplings in Xioshan. One was steaming and the other was frying. The former could highlight the flavor of the flour and was quite chewy. The latter was to soak the dumplings in oil and fry them until they were golden. Different from fried dumplings and fried dumplings, people could not stop eating. Qi Yunfei left the sofa and sat on the opposite side of the table. She rested her chin on one hand and stared blankly at Lu Qing eating the fried dumplings one by one. In less than 5 minutes, 40 dumplings were gone. Moreover, he had not had enough. He got up and took out the soup bowl, filled it to the tip and swept away the delicious dishes. Brother Lu Qing, you can eat? Qi Yunfei opened her mouth and said blankly. Compared to the last time she saw him, he could eat a lot more. Lu Qing put down the bowl and chopsticks, clenched his right hand into a fist and waved it. Otherwise, where do you think I got the strength to hit people? Speaking of this, Qi Yunfei's eyes immediately became bright. She said regretfully, Brother Lu Qing, you are not like before. In the summer you would be shirtless. Isn't that nonsense? I have the supernatural ability of frost. Why would I be afraid of heat? Lu Qing laughed and scolded, and I am old, I have to be polite. You seem to be very disappointed? Yes. Qi Yunfei nodded without hiding. I wanted to take a few photos while you were shirtless. At that time the girls in our class would kneel down and call me sister. She had a silly smile on her face as she fell into her fantasies. Her cousin's current figure really made girls drool. And there were so many people in the whole grade who liked and worshipped him. Lu Cheng's mouth twitched. He thought for a while and said with a smile, Feifei, how was the final exam? Qi Yunfei returned to the human world and said hesitantly, more than 20 in the class. About 30. Which subjects did you not do well in? I remember you were very afraid of mathematics and physics. Lu Qing kept smiling and continued to ask. Mathematics, I didn't pass mathematics. Oh brother Lu Qing, why are you asking this? Qi Yunfei was uncomfortable. As a student with bad grades, she hated this kind of topic the most. I care about you. I am your brother. Lu Qing answered seriously, how many marks did you get in mathematics? Physics? Chemistry? Have you finished your summer homework? Qi Yunfei laughed and suddenly stood up. She rushed to the bedroom and answered in a charming voice, Brother Lu Qing, I remember something to do. Let's talk later. Clang. She closed the door and stomped her foot angrily. Brother Lu Qing, can't we have a good chat? Lu Qing leisurely picked up his chopsticks and continued to devour the food. Little guy, you want to take photos of me? Don't you know what a topic terminator is? When he was full, he took a photo of the sofa and sent it to Yan Zhika, crying that he had to be the director for a few more days. Lu Jisheng and Qi Fang finally came back. Mom, whose family is in trouble? Lu Qing asked casually. Ding Lauer's family. His son had a car accident. His family is in a mess. Qi Fang sighed, he is in his early 30s. How could he die so quickly? Really? Alas. Lu Jisheng sighed and then sighed, unexpected things happen. Qing, be careful when you walk next time. Don't always look down and play with your phone. Car accident? Even if it was a 10-wheeled truck, I might not be hurt. Lu Qing secretly complained, but in his mind the appearance of the Ding family's son appeared. He was 10 years older than Wang Su and loved to read novels. When he was in junior high school, he would read some books from him from time to time. He was not married and had just recently gone on a blind date. Who knew that he would die just like that? Life is so fragile. I have to enjoy the present. For outsiders, such emotions quickly disappeared. Lu Qing changed the topic and talked with his parents about his first experience abroad. He also gave them gifts, including one for Qi Yunfei. He went to bed on time and woke up on time. After a round of training, he felt that his transformation would be complete in 2 days. After breakfast, Lu Qing took a taxi to Ingjin Building in Pingle District. He arranged to meet with Wu Qinggui to confirm the bonus according to the contract clause. There would be corresponding rewards for winning the national competition and the King of Youth League, as well as entering the Inhuman stage. This time Wu Qinggui went directly to the entrance of the building. He smiled like a flower and asked, "You don't seem to like shopping? When I'm with my wife I will shop." Lu Qing smiled and shook his head, answering, "Not really. I shop online a lot these days." "No wonder you haven't seen our newly opened direct sale stores. The martial arts shoes we specially designed for you are selling very well and have helped us to open up the market in the province. You don't know how popular you are in the province." "No, not only the province. Especially the young people, all of them want Lu Cheng's shoes. Even the promotional posters you took were snatched by people." "Is it that bad?" Lu Qing blurted out. Wu Qingge laughed and said, "It's more bad than you think. It's mainly because you don't have any business activities. Everyone's passion is accumulated on this." While talking, they entered Wu Qinggui's office. When the door was closed, the thin and capable middle-aged man took out a check and pushed it to Lu Qing. This was the first time Lu Qing saw a check. He glanced at it and counted the zeros. 1 million. This was much more than the bonus according to the contract clause. "You deserve it." Wu Qinggui smiled brightly as if he didn't want to abide by the contract. Chapter 489. Seeing that Lu Qing was still hesitating, Wu Qinggui quickly added, "The profits you've brought to our company are completely worth this bonus. If you're worried and afraid of any disputes, we can sign a supplementary agreement. To be honest, with your current strength, identity and status, if I really dared to cheat you, wouldn't that be suicide? Do you think I'm tired of living?" Speaking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. "When I signed the contract with you at the beginning of the year, I was already very optimistic about your development. Who would have thought that in just half a year, you would reach the Inhuman stage and even win the University Martial Arts Tournament Championship? The number of fans on Weibo and the number of followers on the forum has been increasing rapidly. Even a man in his early 40s like him found it unrealistic and dreamy. That contract back then was simply too worth it." "You flatter me." Lu Qing smiled modestly. Ever since he participated in the University Martial Arts Tournament finals, the number of fans on Weibo had been increasing rapidly, especially after he won the championship. When the popularity of the King of Youth League of 4 Nations started to rise again, it started to steadily increase. He checked last night and found that there were about 300,000 followers. Excluding those who came to watch the show in the early stages and those who came because of his senior sister Mo Jingting, and the others, the total number was definitely not small. After all, he had never bought any fans, so it was all real. And the number of followers on the forum had also increased by more than 40,000. Gradually growing from a deserted forum to a lively one. Compared to the situation in February and March last year when only Yan Shaoling and Brahman were supporting the forum, it was really a pity. At that time, even he didn't expect the situation today, especially after only 18 or 19 months. However, the number of fans didn't matter to him at his current level. Strength itself represented a lot. Dragon King and Warrior Sage might not even post a status or interact with their fans once in a few months, but their status and hidden power in Jianghu wouldn't decrease at all. While thinking, Lu Qing asked Wu Qinggui to draft a simple supplementary agreement out of caution. After taking a picture and showing it to his senior sister, Shi Yuejian, he signed it without hesitation and put away the check. As for how to use the check, he wasn't a country bumpkin to ask. "I don't understand, but that doesn't mean that I don't know how to search. It doesn't mean that my wife doesn't know." Throughout the whole process, both of them tacitly did not mention the extension of the contract. After all, there was still 1 year and 4 months to go. It was unknown how far Lu Qing could go and how much he was worth. Wu Qinggui now had a headache no matter how much he offered. Moreover, he would be suspected of binding Lu Qing. It was better to build a good relationship with him and talk about it when the contract expired. At that time, under the condition that the conditions were not too different, Lu Qing would definitely do better to be familiar with him. Combining what he had seen and heard, he could make a preliminary judgment that the other party was a person who valued friendship. After signing the agreement and taking the promotional photos, it was almost noon. Wu Qingwei looked at his watch and smiled warmly. Let's have lunch together. I'll call Chairman Wei and that girl Wu Ting. She keeps saying that she wants to see Sir Lu. Sure. Lu Qing agreed readily. He didn't like to socialize, but they were in a cooperative relationship, and they had a friendship outside of work, so it wouldn't be awkward or boring to have a meal together. More importantly, his mom had gone to the Ding family to help out and didn't have time to make lunch for him. It didn't matter where he ate. Just as they were taking the elevator to the underground parking lot, Lu Cheng's phone suddenly rang. It was from Director Xing Qingwu. Hello Lu. Are you back in Xioshan? Xing Qingwu laughed heartily. If you're free, come over for a meal one of these days. I haven't congratulated you on getting third place in the King of Youth League. Ah sure. Actually, even if Uncle Xing didn't ask, I would have come over anyway. Lu Qing answered without hesitation. Uncle Xing? Wu Qingwei read these 3 words and suddenly remembered why the voice on the phone sounded so familiar. He lowered his voice and said, Director Xing? Lu Qing nodded as he spoke. Why don't we invite him over? He and Chairman Wei are old friends. Wu Qingwei's smile widened as he suggested this. The deputy director of the police station was someone he was very willing to befriend. If there was any trouble, this person could solve a lot of problems. Let me ask. Lu Qing answered in a low voice and turned to Xing Qingwu to mention the matter. Sure. I was just worried about the food in the agency cafeteria. Old Wei and I often talk about you. Xing Qingwu laughed heartily. How could he not know that Wei Renjia and Lu Cheng had some sort of relationship? After 20 minutes, they met at Les Hui Villa. When Xing Qingwu saw Lu Cheng, he reached out and patted him on the shoulder. Lu, I've known you for less than 2 years, right? I'm no match for you now. I've spent most of my time doing paperwork. I've also been greeting people. I don't get more than 3 opportunities a year for actual combat. When I want to spar with my subordinates, they're all so reserved. Boring. Xing Qingwu sighed and reminisced. My hands and feet are rusty. Only the gold jade body is still acceptable. There's no hope for me to improve further. To use an illusion, it's the resurrection of a dead body. Lu Qing silently helped Director Xing to summarize. He laughed and asked, I heard that Sister Jingjing is going to Huahai in the middle of the month? This was what he had heard from Ko. That's right. And Chaoyang has graduated. I'm afraid that Huahai will be going downhill for a period of time. That girl, Jingjing, in the words of the TV series, is cold on the outside but warm on the inside. She has been training hard in martial arts, wanting to help support the martial arts club. For this matter, she even specially rushed to Huahai early, wanting to find connections to help improve her ability. Hearing Lu Qing call her Sister Jingjing so familiarly, Xing Qingwu comforted him. But seeing how much you've improved, her efforts are probably in vain. After chatting for a while, Wu Qingwei took his daughter Wu Ting over. With her lively personality, she quickly became the center of attention at the dinner table. She kept calling him Sir Lu. It was not until this time that Lu Qing found out that she and his cousin Qi Yunfei were classmates. They were just nodding acquaintances. When they found out that they knew each other, they quickly became best friends. The effect of a troublemaker plus a troublemaker was self-evident. Wu Ting even confessed that she had encouraged Qi Yunfei to ask him to help teach them swimming. She wanted to see the abs of a master. Unfortunately, she was heartlessly rejected by him at the beginning of July. There was not much business at the dinner. It just deepened the friendship between the parties. In the next 2 days, Lu Qing visited his grandparents, went to Ningxue to visit his grandparents and little aunt, and visited his father-in-law who was alone at home. He gave him the game he mentioned before. The busy days passed quickly. At noon on August 31st, Lu Qing packed his luggage and stepped on the high-speed train back to Songqing. Although he had only left school for 2 months, he felt like he had experienced a whole year. That was the joys and sorrows of leaving and reuniting. Songqing University, Weishui Lake, the martial arts club, and the brightly colored teaching building that he hadn't seen in a long time came into Lu Cheng's sight through the car window in the evening glow. However, that delicate and beautiful figure was nowhere to be seen. Quietly watching these passing by, Lu Qing got off the school bus and walked alone on the pedestrian street. He walked through the familiar road that he knew what shops were in front of him with his eyes closed. But his state of mind was completely different from before. Dormitory 302 Unit 2 Block 7. He turned on the light in the living room and lit up the dim room. After putting his backpack in the small dormitory where the study maniacs were no longer, Lu Qing knocked on the door next door. "Who is it?" Kai Zongming's magnetic voice came out. Lu Qing did not answer. He turned the doorknob and opened the door. He saw Kai Zongming multitasking. The computer was playing an entertainment program, and the mobile phone in his palm was at the critical moment of the game. But his mouth was close to the Coke on the right side of the desk, biting the straw. "Hey, is it cool?" Lu Qing laughed and suggested, "Let's go and eat." Kai Zongming spat out a mouthful of Coke, spraying it all over the computer screen. He forgot about the game, looked up and blurted out in surprise, "You're asking me to eat with you? Where's your girlfriend?" Ever since he started dating Yan Zhika, Qing had almost never asked him to go to the canteen. Did the sun rise from the west today? Did someone's personality change after going to Xinjiang? Ku's joint training program was brought forward by a year. She's already gone to America. Lu Qing answered frankly. Since Talker didn't ask, he didn't say anything. Kai Zongming was stunned at first, then understood. He put down his phone and patted Lu Qing on the shoulder. Half joking and half sincere, he said, "You finally understand my pain. How about it? Do you want to ask me for advice again? Speaking of long-distance relationships, I'm not targeting anyone. I'm talking about everyone here. Yes, you know." Lu Qing laughed and took out his phone without hesitation. He showed little Ming the information of his flight reservation. F***Sike. Kai Zongming exclaimed, then made a disdainful gesture. "I look down on you? So what if you're rich? So what if you don't have to go to class? So what if you're good at martial arts? I'm sorry. So what if you're good at martial arts? So what if you're rich?" Lu Qing tried to hold back his laughter. "Damn it. Let's not talk about this sad topic. I don't have anything else to teach you. You've already understood the essence." Kai Zongming sighed deeply. When he realized that his character in the game had been killed, he felt even sadder. "Oh right. You didn't rest during the summer, right? You didn't waste your martial arts, right?" Lu Qing changed the topic. Kai Zongming flexed his arms, flexed his muscles and smiled proudly. "I feel like I'm close to the top of 9th pin. But I still can't find the feeling of withdraw you mentioned." "You don't have to rush. More haste, less speed," Lu Qing reminded him. "Okay." Kai Zongming nodded. Then, half thinking and half worried, he said, "I wonder how many strong newcomers will come to the martial arts club this time? You don't look like someone who cares about this kind of thing." Lu Qing said, slightly surprised. Kai Zongming glanced at him and answered firmly, "Yes. I bet you've forgotten that I'm the president of the martial arts club." Lu Qing's face suddenly turned red. He laughed dryly and said, "In my heart you're the Casanova and talker. There's nothing else. Speak human." Little Ming interrupted him rudely. "I really forgot." Lu Qing covered his face. Chapter 490. In a cafeteria of Songqing University, Lu Qing and Kai Zongming had plates of dishes placed in front of them. "What did you say? Coach Sure has left too?" Little Ming blurted out in surprise when he heard the news. Why did it feel like all the monkeys had left after winning the national championship? Bah, who's the monkey? Senior brother Sun Jian and senior sister Lin Hua had left the martial arts club. The grim smiler Lin Ke had returned to Shushan study to recuperate. It was said that he wouldn't be back. Now, even Coach Sure had left Songqing University. If it weren't for Qing, the other members of the martial arts club would have suspected that they had entered the wrong door after their summer vacation. Yeah. Lu Qing ate a mouthful of rice and swallowed it along with the shredded pork in his mouth. He smiled and said, "Isn't this normal? Isn't it enough for a mighty one with physical invulnerability to play with us for 2 years? Don't worry, the school will find a teacher with martial arts to do part-time work, but he will mainly be the leader. Most of the time I'll still be the one guiding you guys. I'm a new inhuman and a heavenly son of the age. It's enough to guide you guys." "Damn Qing, you're so proud of yourself." Kai Zongming criticized him angrily. The worry in his heart dissipated. "But don't you have to fly to and from America every month to be a flying man?" In order to maintain their relationship, Qing had to work very hard. Half a month to guide you guys and half a month to practice on my own. You see, my master doesn't usually guide you and only occasionally corrects you guys. Since everyone is already at the entry level and has already learned what you need to learn, there's not much more to teach. At most, I'll take some time out to share my actual combat experience with you guys. As for the freshmen, Senior Li Mao's basic skills are very solid. Daily supervision shouldn't be a problem. At this point he added, by the way, I won't be participating in most of the matches. I'll be doing some self-cultivation. With the current strength of the members of the martial arts club, as long as we don't meet a team with a dance stage member, we'll be able to win. That's true. I've met everyone these 2 days and even sparred with senior brother Li Mao. He's a little stronger than me and should be at the top of the professional 9th pin, but he hasn't reached the dance stage yet. Bao Zi herself said that she's close to the professional 9th pin, but she's the kind of person who's proud and modest in front of others. I reckon that she's already at the amateur 9th pin. Wang Dali is about the same as her. Jin Lu and Mu Jinyin are a little weaker, but they're still considered strong amateur first pin fighters. Let's see what kind of new students come this time and whether anyone can comprehend, withdraw, and step into the dance stage in the next year. Kai Zongming said as he recalled. Lu Qing was stunned. He didn't expect little Ming to have such a serious and attentive side. He was very suitable to be the president of the martial arts club. Apart from senior brother Li Mao, if anyone can reach the dance stage in the next year, then our martial arts club will have a successor and won't decline all of a sudden. Lu Qing sighed with emotion. He glanced at Kai Zongming and chuckled. Don't drag everyone down. Damn, I thought you'd say you want me to be the next dance stage fighter in the martial arts club. Kai Zongming scolded, annoyed and amused at the same time. If I can't reach the dance stage in my junior year, then why should I pursue my martial arts dream? I'll just go home and inherit my dad's company. Professional 9th pin fighters could only participate in the preliminaries and belong to the bottom of the martial arts circle. It wasn't as comfortable as being a rich second generation. As for the amateur ranks, they hadn't even entered the real martial arts circle yet. Really? Lu Qing asked with a smile. Really? Little Ming was at a loss for words. He gulped down a mouthful of ice water and sighed. I can give it a try in my senior year. If I can't reach the dance stage before the age of 25, then it'll be really boring. Why are you getting further and further away from the topic? Lu Qing teased. Don't you have confidence in yourself? I'm just assuming the worst-case scenario. Kai Zongming snorted. Although I'm not as abnormal as you, I'm still one of the top 3 people in the martial arts club for many years. Me Lin Ke Ku, all of us improve faster than you. Lu Qing exposed talker's bullsh *T. Don't you understand human language? I mean, excluding abnormal people like you, I'm one of the top 3. You're alone. Kai Zongming was so angry that he laughed. While talking and laughing, they finished dinner and headed to the martial arts club. Half of it was for digestion and half of it was a return, in a sense. Songqing University's martial arts gym was brightly lit. Many students came to work out and train. Lu Qing looked around and felt very gratified. After 2 years, the atmosphere here was getting better and better. At this moment, he saw a familiar figure from the corner of his eye. Qiu Zhigao, old Qiu, was wiping his sweat as he entered the strength training gym. Old Qiu came here a few days early. He practiced in the morning, at night, and during the day he studied by himself. I'm embarrassed to be lazy. Kai Zongming followed Lu Qing's gaze. If he was like this in his first year, with his strong body, who would believe that he's not at least an amateur of 3rd pin? Embarrassed to be lazy? Then who was the one who was multitasking? Lu Qing smiled and shook his head. He sighed and said, Old Qiu didn't make the wrong choice. At least his grades are much better than ours. If he can improve his martial arts this year, it will be relatively easy for him to find a job in his 4th year, and the salary will be good too. His family is not very rich, so he can only make the most practical choice. Not everyone can talk about dreams. Are you mocking me? Kai Zongming said self-deprecatingly. Then he changed the topic to other roommates. Model worker is very similar to you. Besides accompanying his girlfriend, all he does is study programming. I heard from Chang that he's pretty good. How about Chang himself? Lu Qing asked with interest. His grades have always been in the top few in our specialization. The counselor hinted to him that if he kept this up for another year, he would probably be admitted to the postgraduate school. Beast failed 2 subjects and passed the retest after paying the tuition fee. But he didn't care. His family is not short of money. Old Mao and his girlfriend both planned to take the postgraduate school entrance exam. Godman failed a few more subjects and was scolded by the counselor. He said that if he continued like this, he would be expelled. Kai Zongming said one by one. Godman was Tang Wen, a serious game enthusiast who could really forget the time of the exam. Lu Qing sighed when he heard this. He was busy with dating and practicing martial arts. He went to bed early and woke up early, so he didn't have much interaction with his roommates. Now that he heard Little Ming's words, he realized that the past 2 years had left traces on everyone. He was about to say something when he suddenly saw a boy walking towards him. The boy was about 1.8 meters tall with a handsome face and a strong body. His chi and blood were so vigorous that it almost materialized. At least strong 9. Lu Qing whispered. This should be the new first-year student. In other years, except for the martial arts club, there was no such awesome existence. And how could he not know the members of the martial arts club? The boy ran towards him with small steps and shouted with a bright smile. Senior Lu, hello, I'm Deng Yang, a disciple of Shizhou Island. I entered Songqing University this year and just turned 18. At this point he paused for a moment and added excitedly, You're my idol. This guy is really friendly. Lu Qing couldn't help but criticize him in his heart. 18 years old, professional 9th pin, vigorous chi and blood, and a direct disciple of a big sect. This is not much different from Fang Zhirong and the others. Lu Qing smiled and said, We were just talking about whether there would be any geniuses coming to Songqing University Martial Arts Club this year. Now I'm relieved. We'll recruit after the military training, but you can come with us tomorrow for special training. We'll help you apply for no military training. Okay. Deng Yang replied excitedly and then said firmly, Senior Lu, there are no geniuses in front of you. Not bad, he's good with words. He's a good seedling. Lu Qing almost laughed. After a few more words of greeting, Deng Yang waved goodbye and went back to training. Kai Zhongming was relieved and said, Seems like he's easy to get along with. What are you worried about? If there really is a thorn, I can handle it with one hand. Lu Qing sensed Little Ming's worry. But you go to America once a month and each trip takes 15 days. If we really meet a strong freshman with bad character, we'll be in a difficult position. Kai Zhongming looked at Lu Qing with disdain. We can't beat them and we can't control them. What else can we do? Gang fight. It's not like Peng Liyun and Ren Li who are in Dan's stage will come. Why don't you wait for me to come back and deal with them? Lu Qing didn't think it was a big deal. Good martial arts are so amazing. Why do I feel like I've been bullied and called for help? Kai Zhongming laughed at himself. If you really want to call me your parent, I don't mind. Lu Qing deliberately dragged the last word. Get lost. Little Ming said concisely. In the dormitory of the Academy of Arts, He pushed open the door of the small dormitory. She looked around and asked, Jinjin, where's Xiaoling? Mu Jinyin looked away from the computer screensaver and pointed outside. She went to the balcony to answer a call. Well, I have something to ask her. He explained casually and went out again. She waited outside the glass door of the balcony. She waited for 2 minutes but didn't hear any voice outside. Her heart skipped a beat. She turned the doorknob and entered the balcony. Looking out, she found Yan Xiaoling squatting in the corner, biting her lips with red eyes. What's wrong? He asked with concern. Nothing. Something happened at home. Yan Xiaoling stood up hurriedly and wiped her face, revealing her signature silly smile. You came to the balcony to make a call too? What a coincidence. No, I just came to ask you one thing. Are you going to participate in this semester's special training? He returned to the topic. Special training? What does this mean? It means I'll have to say goodbye to lazing around in bed and I'll have very little time to watch TV, QQ or play games. Yan Xiaoling hesitated. Didn't you say you wanted to participate in the special training last semester? You said you had perseverance and willpower. You even downloaded a training app to supervise yourself. Do you want to prove it to me? He mocked deliberately. And the result? I persisted for 7 days. Yan Xiaoling answered evasively. Then she said confidently, You know me. I'm always short-tempered. My interest will be gone soon. You're quite proud. He was speechless. The next morning after the training, Lu Qing felt the complete transformation of his body. He took out his phone and sent a message to Yan Zhika. Coach Lu is coming online. Chapter 491. September 1st was Monday. In the martial arts arena of Songqing University, the members of the special training team gathered again after 2.5 months. Since they had just won the championship of the National University Martial Arts Competition and had improved a lot during the summer vacation, everyone was full of smiles and high spirits. Box, your face seems to have gotten rounder. The carefree Wang Dali glanced at him casually and greeted a familiar teammate. This semester, he had shaved his hair until only a thin layer was left. Coupled with his naturally fierce facial features at first glance, he looked like a person who had just been released from prison. Izzy showed him what it meant to kill with her eyes. She made a disdainful gesture and said, "So what if my face is round? Did I eat your food or wear your clothes? Believe it or not, I'll draw your little yellow rabbit tonight. Since I was young I've never lost weight. What can I do? I'm desperate too. Little yellow rabbit." Only then did Wang Dali remember that the round-faced girl in front of him was a famous artist in the Academy of Arts. Her use of a hand-drawn tablet was superb. She had once created a collection of pictures called Hot-Blooded Martial Arts Club, which was very popular on the internet. Of course, whether or not she had actually drawn a little yellow rabbit in private was a matter of opinion. Just as Wang Dali was thinking about whether to be stubborn or beg for mercy, Kai Zongming, who was wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges, came out of the locker room. He looked around and said with a smile, "We have 2 tables of mahjong. There were only Sister Wen and senior brother Li Mao left in the senior year, and there were only him and Qing in the junior year. There were 4 sophomores: He Zi, Wang Dali, Jin Lu, and Mu Jinyan. Including the new student Deng Yang, there were a total of 9 special training members. However, Qing was a part-time coach and had to fly around, so he was not included. After the recruitment there should be 20 of us, right?" Li Mao looked forward to the future. There were many freshmen who were willing to try the special training, but they usually couldn't last long. Those who could come once or twice a week for martial arts lessons were overcrowded. "So, President, you have to cherish us. Organize more activities to improve everyone's cohesion and develop a sense of community," He Zi suddenly suggested with a serious expression. Then, she added with a bright smile, "For example, we can hold a Do Diju competition or a werewolf killing game." After getting along with her for almost a year, Kai Zongming knew that although the round-faced girl in front of him looked cold and elegant, she was actually a chatterbox once they got familiar with each other. Thus he didn't mind and teased her, "Aren't you and Yin Shaoling known as the Dumb Duo? Can you even play werewolf? Meow meow meow. Since when did we have this nickname? It must be because he often stayed with Shaoling and was dragged down by her." He Zi pointed at herself and said, "President, you have to live up to your conscience when you speak. I look smart, how do I look like Shaoling? I've even learned how to play werewolf kill." "What insights?" Kai Zongming asked casually. He Zi smiled and glanced at the next door. She replied resolutely, "Kill Dali first if you can't solve the problem." "What did I do to provoke you?" Wang Dali was implicated, which made Mu Jinyan, Jin Lu, and the others burst into laughter. Deng Yang arrived amidst the joyous atmosphere. Everyone was amazed by his vigorous qi and blood. After Kai Zongming's introduction, they were even more confident about the future of the martial arts club. They were no longer worried about the possibility of a break in the club. At 7:56, Lu Qing stepped into the martial arts arena and walked to He Zi and the others. He smiled and introduced himself, "From today onwards I'm your coach Lu." "Ah. What? Surprised voices sounded one after another. Mu Jinyan and Wang Dali looked at each other with a blank face. "But don't worry, I'll be a part-time coach this year. I believe I still have the ability to guide you. The school will also send a former martial artist to be a teacher, but he'll mainly be the team leader. Sister Wen, you're in your 4th year and should be busy looking for a job. There are some things you don't need to do by yourself. Find a few helpers and train them," Lu Qing said slowly, neither too fast nor too slow, gradually calming everyone's hearts. Although there was no physical invulnerability mighty one as a coach, it was the same as having a new and human heavenly son. Anyway, most of the time, there was no difference between Coach Sure and not existing. At this moment they only felt that Lu Qing was the pillar of the martial arts club. As long as he was still here, the martial arts club would not collapse. "Okay, I'll ask Shaoling if she has time to do more things." Li Xiaowen nodded with a smile. Besides being lazy and fussy, Shaoling doesn't have any other shortcomings. He Zi complained in a low voice. Lu Qing smiled and looked around at the crowd. While choosing his words, he opened his mouth and said, "You didn't waste this summer vacation. Let's set a small goal for this year and strive to have a new dance stage fighter among you." Since it concerned themselves and they were all young and energetic, everyone was complacent. They talked about the future and all kinds of information about the threshold of dance stage. According to Coach Sure, only those who could perform force concentration could be considered to have entered the martial arts world. No matter where they went, they would have a good life. Lu Qing listened with a smile. When they were almost done with their discussion, he cleared his throat and said, Let me tell you about my experience when I broke through to Dan's stage. As soon as he said that, everyone held their breaths and went completely silent. They looked at Coach Lu with eager eyes. Although there were many dance stage experts sharing their experiences on the internet, no one could be sure that the person on the other side of the computer was a cat or a dog. How could it compare to a live high-ranked dance stage expert explaining it personally? Lu Cheng pondered for a few seconds and said in a mellow voice, "Back then, my master only gave me 10 words, human body Big Dan, round and bright." Human body Big Dan refers to the integration of all the forces in your body into one, forming a whole. When you practice, you can't leave any blind spots. You can't stop practicing just because you don't need it. Round and bright means that your force, chi, blood, and spirit are smooth and transparent. This requires everyone to polish it bit by bit and get rid of the impurities, in all aspects. You can't be too fast or too anxious. What I just said is all about polishing. The most important thing is the word, bright. This refers to the state of the soul, which is also the will. I remember that an ancient person once described it like this: "My heart is bright, what else can I say?" The so-called will is why you practice martial arts and how much you are willing to pay for it. This is not something that can be solved by shouting a few slogans or doing something stupid out of excitement. You have to constantly reflect on yourself, explore yourself, and truly find the strength that moves you. Then, you have to put it into practice again and again to polish it again and again so that the will can truly condense and take shape. Maybe everyone thinks that this is very simple. Then let me give you a bad example. Everyone has dreams, but how many people can really practice and fight for it? And how many people can persevere and not be defeated by setbacks and difficulties when they start practicing and fighting? This kind of saying is more like chicken soup without considering other practical factors. You just have to understand the spirit. Based on his own experience, Lu Cheng talked about how he searched for his inner strength and condensed his martial arts will in a more down-to-earth manner. He Zi Deng Yang, and the others seemed to be deep in thought as they listened, not fully understanding. Coach Lu's words are all solid. This kind of discovery is almost impossible. You might need to do something to find it. There is a reason why the monks of Xinjiang's Theravada practice asceticism. Of course, it is not to learn how to beg, how to skip lunch, or how to torture yourself. Instead, it is to think about what is the most suitable method for you. Lu Cheng looked calm and had the bearing of a master, but in reality, he was sweating profusely. Being a master and a coach is not an easy thing to do. Clearly, he had already grasped the knowledge, but to express it clearly and completely was not easy at all. The description just now was at most 50% to 60% of what you really mean. Alright, that's all for today. Take your time to digest it. Don't be anxious. Look for me if you have any questions. Lu Cheng secretly exhaled. Now let's move on to the pole standing practice. Yes, Coach Lu. Everyone replied in unison. After that, they looked at each other and smiled. The feeling of being united and striving for good results in the nationals was back. When they returned to the dormitory, He saw Yan Xiaoling had just climbed out of bed. She pretended to mention casually, "Coach sure has returned to the Ice God sect. We are Coach Lu now." Coach Lu? Yan Xiaoling had one foot on a slipper and the other on the ladder. Yes, Lu Qing. He turned around and smiled like a flower. I want to go for special training. Yan Xiaoling was excited. I want to receive personal guidance from Lu Qing. 3 minutes of enthusiasm, He coldly threw back the words. Yan Xiaoling was speechless. She slapped her thigh and said, "Oh my, I forgot I haven't registered yet. When are you recruiting special training members?" After the first-year military training. He changed the topic. "Xiaoling, what's wrong with you these 2 days? You don't seem to be in a good mood." She was on the verge of crying when she was on the phone with her family. Yan Xiaoling's lips quivered a few times before she sighed and said, "It's nothing much. Anyway, it's like going home. It's like living under someone else's roof. I want to earn money as soon as possible and have a home of my own." He didn't ask any more questions. She squeezed out a smile and said, "I thought you were being bullied. If you really need help in the future, just tell me. I'll fly to Yenling to help you. With one arrow, thousands of troops will come to my aid." She didn't expect the usually happy Xiaoling to have such experiences and sadness. "Box, you are the best boyfriend." Yan Xiaoling regained her mood and gave him a thumbs up. He smiled and nodded. "Well said. I'll make sure you wake up on time and memorize vocabulary and homework every day." Yan Xiaoling's face was even more bitter than before. Ding. Lu Qing heard a text message. He picked it up and found that the 500,000 yuan prize for the King of Youth League had arrived. He now had a little over 2,450,000 yuan in savings. He didn't have to worry about the cost of being a flying man for a year. By next year he would have entered the professional martial arts circle and wouldn't have to worry about income. He took a screenshot of his balance and sent it to Yenjika. Clenching fist expression. I'll wait for September 14th. Well, before that, I have to go through the inspection and change my professional 8th pin certificate to professional 5th pin. Chapter 492. September 7th, Sunday morning, Songqing Martial Artist Association's indoor training ground. Can we begin? Lu Qing tightened his sleeves and smiled at the 3 examiners in front of him. He had obtained his professional certification in Songqing, so he could come here to change his certification. However, both the Provincial Martial Artist Association and the capital had specially dispatched personnel to the scene to conduct a joint examination in the name of justice. Sure, let's begin. The leader, the white-haired old man, nodded his head pleasantly. An inhuman below the age of 21. Who knew how far he could go in the future? Even though he was a senior high pin and had a high status in the martial arts world, he didn't want to offend him over such a trivial matter. There was a saying in the martial arts world that one would rather bully an old man than a poor young man. Lu Qing cupped his hands and bowed. He walked to the side of the field and faced a hanging sandbag. He lowered his waist slightly, allowing his qi and blood to flow back to his lower abdomen. He felt empty and vast, but also as though he had shrunk into a ball, round and terrifying. His dan qi gushed out. Lu Qing's muscles swelled and became distinct. Following which, he shook his shoulders and threw out his arms, as though he was going to move forward. During this process, his fist penetrated the air current and burned with a layer of red flames, as though he was wearing a violent glove. Boom! His fist hit the target, but there wasn't a dull thud. Instead, there was a commotion akin to a bomb exploding. The entire sandbag suddenly disintegrated. Every grain of sand seemed to be covered in a circle of red. Following the turbulence of the impact, it shot forward, making whooshing sounds that made one's scalp go numb. When all this was over, a conical fan formed in front of Lu Qing. The range of the sputtering made the examiner's eyelids twitch involuntarily. Emperor Yen Force indeed lived up to its name. To be able to use the real, formed and complete Emperor Yen Force, while using force concentration, it was enough to prove that he had completely transformed and was no longer an ordinary person. Heroes indeed come from the young. The white-haired old man clapped and smiled. There are no more problems on our side. We'll send the signed certificate back to the headquarters in the imperial capital later. Wait for about 10 minutes and go straight to the office to get the certificate. Although the other 2 examiners were a little annoyed that the white-haired old man had acted arbitrarily and announced the end of the examination without consulting them, they couldn't make a fuss about it because he was a senior and the matter was simple and clear. They could only pinch their noses and say with a smile, "Congratulations, young friend. Songqing hasn't had an inhuman for many years." "Sorry to trouble you, seniors," Lu Qing replied politely. After chatting awkwardly for a few minutes, he said goodbye to the examiner and went to the office to wait. Not long after, he received the certificate of professional 5th pin from the staff. There was a serial number, a name and a red seal. The whole process of getting the certificate didn't take more than 20 minutes. For Lu Qing, who was well known for his strength, it was indeed just a formality. He exhaled, spread out the certificate in his hand and snapped a picture. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. When he had come to collect his professional 8th pin certification last September, he had never thought that he would be able to enter the high pin next year. He had even planned to participate in 1 or 2 ranking events. Plans can't keep up with changes. Now, they can officially call me a high pin of Dan stage. Lu Qing put away the certificate and showed the picture to Yenjika. He flirted with the girl for a while before uploading it to Weibo. Without any words, he clicked publish. The certificate itself contained thousands of words. After scrolling through everyone's congratulations and praises, Lu Qing walked along the corridor toward the entrance of the City Martial Artist Association. He had just taken 2 steps when he suddenly saw a familiar yet strange figure enter the building. Seeing him, the newcomer was a little surprised. Then, he suddenly understood and said with a smile, "You're here for the certificate of professional 5th pin?" "Yes." Lu Qing glanced at him and muttered in his heart, "Who is this guy? He looks quite familiar." The newcomer had a common buzz cut. His facial features were ordinary, but he had a calm temperament. He didn't notice Lu Cheng's doubts and sighed with a smile that didn't haze. When I lost to you last year, I was quite unwilling to accept it. Who would have thought that in just a year and a half I would be left far behind by you? Hearing this, Lu Cheng suddenly remembered who he was. He was Peng Qingguang from Mingwei Martial Arts School. He had fought with him in the preliminaries. At that time he was 24 years old and had already obtained the professional 9th pin certificate for 3 years. His chi and blood were at the peak of that level. His punches and kicks also had a hint of withdrawing. He was one of the most difficult opponents to deal with outside of the dance stage. This classmate had become famous at a young age. He was a popular martial artist of the body refining stage in Songqing and had won the favor of many big martial arts schools and aristocratic families. However, in order to maintain the independence of Mingwei Martial Arts School left by the old school master, he would rather practice ordinary martial arts than be annexed or separated. He stubbornly shouldered everything. Because of this, he had been stuck at the threshold of Dan's stage for a long time. Looking him up and down, Lu Qing showed a sincere smile and saluted Peng Qingguang. Should I congratulate you too? Peng Qingguang's exuberant qi and blood had been completely restrained. As an experienced person, Lu Qing knew very well what this meant. Peng Qingguang accepted the salute calmly and replied with emotion. I just broke through recently. I'm also here to get my certificate. So I can't compare to you. After saying that, he saluted Lu Cheng and congratulated him for entering the inhuman stage. Both of them weren't very familiar with each other. After a few words of greeting, they bid each other farewell. Before leaving the door, Lu Cheng turned back and saw Peng Qingguang disappearing at the corner of the corridor. He nodded thoughtfully. He looked up Peng Qingguang's information and found that he was still in Mingwei Martial Arts School. By working for the Martial Arts Association, he had exchanged for an average martial arts manual. In order to persevere in his heart, he had endured many years of hardship, facing temptations, setbacks, disappointment, and pain. He had never wavered. Even Lu Cheng was ashamed of his willpower. After crossing the threshold of Dan's stage, Peng Qingguang would no longer have any obstacles before the inhuman stage. As for the future, Lu Cheng didn't have enough foresight to see so far ahead. After leaving the small building where the association was located, Lu Cheng went to the martial arts arena nearby. He took out his phone and opened the app to book a ride. At this moment he suddenly felt thirsty. Hence, he turned to a nearby supermarket. As he picked out some energy drinks, he started to daydream about his trip to America next week. His longing for Yanzhika over the past month flooded his mind bit by bit, igniting a sense of disappointment and frustration. Full of expectation, he imagined the scene when he met Yanzhika again. Subconsciously, he began to consider what kind of expression and words he should use to communicate with the girl. Should he indulge his emotions and give her the warmest and most emotional hug? Or should he show his feelings and let her get used to it gradually? As he thought about it, Lu Cheng had already filmed many episodes of TV series in his mind. They were all stories of romantic interactions between the two of them. Of course, as an adult man and a married man, it was inevitable that he would recall and look forward to some things that were not suitable for children. He stopped this trend in time and took the iced energy drink to the payment area. Suddenly, Lu Cheng stopped in his tracks. Because of his wild thoughts, he remembered something that he had to pay attention to. I'm already at the inhuman stage. According to Ku's grandpa, there's a small chance that I'll make Ku pregnant. I can't be as unscrupulous as before. I have to take safety precautions. Damn it, I haven't bought that thing yet. Should I go to the forum and ask about it? The title would be, How do I pretend to buy condoms regularly when buying condoms for the first time? Just thinking about it made him feel embarrassed. Lu Cheng put down the energy drink and took out his phone. He flipped through page after page and already had a plan in mind. According to others, there were usually condoms in the checkout area of the supermarket. When paying the bill, he just had to point at it and the cashier would understand what he meant. There was no need for too much communication during the whole process. Cough. Lu Cheng put on his black-rimmed glasses. Thickening his skin, he took the iced drink and queued behind the checkout line. After 2 or 3 minutes, it was finally his turn. He glanced around sharply, trying to determine his target quickly. Damn it, why are there only chewing gum, lollipops, and batteries? Where's that thing we agreed on? Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. You want this? The cashier picked up a lollipop and asked. Lu Cheng didn't know how to explain. He nodded dumbly, took out his change, and took the iced drink and lollipop. When he was out of the supermarket, he came back to his senses and took a sip of the iced drink. What the hell was I doing just now? After finishing the lollipop, he stubbornly found another supermarket. He wasn't in a hurry to act. First, he did a thorough investigation and locked on to the location of his target. Yes, they have their own shelves. While there was no one around, Lu Qing took a quick glance and found that there were several brands, each with different models. He didn't have time to search for which brand was better. He took a box of each model and activated the ice mirror. He calmed his emotions and went to the checkout line calmly, ignoring the occasional glances. After a while, he came to the front of the cashier. The cashier took a look at the dazzling array of boxes and blurted out in surprise, "You want all of them?" "Yes." Lu Qing's answer was concise and to the point. The ice mirror was almost broken. The cashier looked at him strangely and didn't say anything else. She quickly went through the process. After paying, Lu Qing carried the bag and walked out of the supermarket unhurriedly. He felt relaxed as he walked to the roadside. He felt like he had passed a difficult obstacle. When he returned to the dormitory, he saw that Zhao Chong and the others weren't there. Lu Qing couldn't help but flip through the spoils of war. As he looked, another doubt surfaced in his mind. How do I use this thing? If I embarrass myself at the crucial moment, won't Ka laugh at me for the rest of my life? Also, there are different models and varieties here. After thinking seriously for a while, he opened the packaging and began reading the instructions. He took a few and went to the bathroom. After a while, Lu Qing, who had solved all his problems, came out in a relaxed and happy mood. He happened to see Kai Zhongming opening the door to the small dormitory. "Hey Qing, you look like you're in love. Are you thinking about going to America next week?" Little Ming teased him. Lu Qing was surprised and asked back, "You can tell?" "Of course. Don't you know who I am?" Kai Zhongming replied proudly. "You're going to America next week. It would be strange if you weren't in love these few days." "I can't tell, but I can deduce." Lu Qing was stunned. He was once again impressed by the Casanova's strength in this aspect. After that, a week finally passed in his mind. The date of September 14th jumped into his eyes. Chapter 493. On the 14th of September, after his morning exercise and shower, Lu Qing carefully checked the things in his backpack to make sure he had everything he needed. Then he couldn't wait to leave the campus and take a taxi to the airport. After an hour of waiting, he finally boarded the flight to Connecticut, America. His emotions were surging as he went through a series of procedures such as picking up his ticket, border inspection, and security check. At 11:55 a.m. on the 14th of the Beijing time and 10:55 p.m. on the 13th of the Connecticut summer time, Yan Zhike, who was chatting with Lu Qing intermittently, received the latest message from him. "Turn off your phone. Take off now." Yan Zhike's eyes lit up instantly. She picked up her phone and typed quickly. She typed 2 lines of words, but as she wrote, she felt that the words were not enough or too straightforward to express her thoughts accurately. So, she deleted all the words and only replied with a nodding like a chicken pecking rice emoji. "Okay." She clicked send and put away her phone. While she was working on the report, she pressed the button several times to see if there were any new messages from Lu Qing. After waiting for a while, there was no reply. She checked the website again and confirmed that the flight had taken off successfully. She endured the throbbing in her heart and finished all the reports and leftover homework for this week. She didn't have to do anything else on the 14th, which was Sunday. Yan Zhike twisted her body and stretched herself. She took off the rubber band and let her hair fall down smoothly. Her hair was shining with dark light. Then she took her pajamas and went into the bathroom. She washed her hair seriously until her face was rosy and moist. "I think I value you enough." Yan Zhike wrapped her wet hair with a dry towel and wiped the fog on the mirror. She looked at herself, gently biting her lips, and laughed in a low voice. Someone always said that he valued girls more than him. She thought for a moment, then applied body lotion and a facial mask. When her hair was completely dried, she suddenly remembered something. Her cheeks flushed even more as she took out another bottle of cream. Her eyes rippled as she applied the cream on her thighs. She pushed it down, past her knees to her ankles, and stopped at the tips of her feet. "Umph." Yan Zhike snorted inexplicably. On the flight, Lu Qing, who had always been thrifty, booked the economy class. Even so, the round trip cost him nearly 20,000 yuan. Because of this, his savings were only a little more than 2,450,000 yuan. Phew, this really isn't a long-distance relationship that most people can afford. Lu Qing looked at the plane ticket and came to a similar realization. Wasn't the purpose of strengthening oneself and becoming better so that one could withstand these tests? The internet wasn't available on the plane, but Lu Qing didn't feel bored. Sometimes he would meditate and meditate, cultivating the nuances and consolidating his inhuman stage. Other times he would imagine his meeting with Yenjika and their interactions for the next half a month. When his thoughts were at their most scattered, he even sketched out the future, living one life after another with the girl. Of course, not feeling bored didn't mean that he wasn't anxious. He only hated that the flight couldn't arrive immediately, and hated that his ability couldn't be used in this matter. As for the bumpiness of the long-distance flight and the narrowness of the economy-class seat, it did not make him feel uncomfortable. There was no sign of back pain. An inhuman is an inhuman. On the way there were in-flight meals provided. After they were done, the stewardess handed out the entry card and declaration form to each passenger. They could ask for a Chinese template, but they had to fill in the form in English. With Coach Yan's cramming before the exam, Lu Qing finished it easily and clipped it into his passport. They didn't speak for the rest of the journey. The flight began to descend at 4:40 p.m. on the 14th of September in Connecticut. Through the window, Lu Qing could see a magnificent and vast lake, a river flowing through the city, and a cluster of modern high-rise buildings. This was a very important city in America. It had developed industries such as finance, steel, food, and manufacturing. It had a complete logistics system and convenient transportation. Not to mention, Connecticut University, which was located here, was famous in the field of economics. Nearly one-third of the top scholars who had won awards in this field were from this university. It's said that there's a martial arts sect here that's considered outstanding in the whole of America. It's called Jiruga or something. Similar thoughts flashed across his mind, and his thoughts quickly turned back to the upcoming reunion after a long separation. A month or so was more than enough time for a newly married couple. Judging from the posts, even if we had been apart for a long time, we would feel a little distant from each other. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to give Ku a hug straight away. I would have to do it step by step. But if I do that, would Ku feel that I'm too cold and leave a knot in her heart? Sigh, what a dilemma. North of Connecticut in the girl's room. Yenjika sat in front of the dressing table, finishing the last stroke of the makeup that she had been busy with for a long time. She pursed her pink lips and looked at herself in the mirror. At times, she felt that she was so beautiful that Cheng, that fool, would never be able to take his eyes off her. At other times, she felt that she had bags under her eyes because she had been rushing homework and reports for the past few days in order to spare some time. Furthermore, she had put on a whole 4 kilograms because of the reduced training time in the past 2 weeks. Compared to when she was in China, she seemed to be a little lacking. She glanced at the time and stopped hesitating. She stood up and opened the wardrobe. She recalled every time she made Lu Qing stare at her in a daze while she picked out a matching outfit. It was September in Connecticut and the weather had already turned cold. However, the local climate was changeable and there were often differences in temperature within a day. Hence, there were many signs on the streets that indicated the current time and temperature. Yenjika hesitated for a while before choosing a gentlemanly white shirt, a knee-length skirt, a pair of skin-colored stockings and a pair of youthful tennis shoes. She examined herself for a while. While her heart was suddenly pounding, she put on the wedding ring, grabbed her bag and left the room. She called her full-time bodyguard, Auntie Du, and asked her to drive her to the airport. At 5:15 p.m., the slightly delayed flight landed at the busy Orion Airport. Lu Qing carried his luggage and held his passport. While walking with the crowd, he sent Yenjika a message saying that he had landed smoothly. As he had been practicing speaking and listening with Teacher Yen, he was barely able to communicate with the staff. It didn't take him much effort to reach the customs counter. Of course, there was no lack of queues. After receiving the passport, entry card, and declaration form, the staff began to examine them carefully. At this moment, in a secret office in the airport, the local person in charge of Homeland Security saw that the word, danger, had been marked in red on the computer screen. Danger level. The pot-bellied man made a call and called in a Caucasian man in his late 20s. He pointed at the computer and said in a deep voice, "Smith, keep a lookout until he leaves." The brown-haired, sunny Smith lowered his head and looked at the screen. Danger level? So young? The black-haired man from China on the screen was clearly not older than 25. No, according to the information he was only 20. Is he a monster? Don't ask why. Just do your job and I'll get Rainey to organize the information for you. I'll also give you sea-level access to Skynet. The head of the department wiped his sparse hair. Yes, sir. Smith turned around and raised his right hand. A thin thread that was hard to see flew out and wrapped around the door handle, pulling it open. He raised his left hand and another thread flew out. Smith pulled and flicked the thread and was out of the office. Close the door. The head of the department growled and muttered, "Don't think you're Spider-Man just because you evolved this ability. That's a virtual character." "All right, sir. You can go now." After a total of 10 minutes, the customs staff returned the passport and the half-torn entry card to Lu Cheng. Phew. Lu Cheng, who was worried that he would be deported as a terrorist, heaved a sigh of relief. He quickened his pace and rushed to the security check. After another round of queuing, he strode to the arrival hall. As he walked, he sent a message to Yenjika. "Where are you? I'm almost out. International traffic packages are so good." Yenjika observed her surroundings and declined his attempt to strike up a conversation. Her heart raced as she lowered her head and replied, "Just opposite the exit. Look ahead." Beep. The message came in. Lu Cheng glanced at it and almost burst out laughing. He was also very excited. He had described it in such a general manner, without any iconic things. Just as he was about to ask another question, he had already walked out. He subconsciously raised his head and looked as far as his eyes could see. He saw that elegant and graceful figure standing quietly in the waning light. There was no landmark. She was the landmark. She bloomed silently among the people and made the surroundings beautiful. Bang, bang, bang. Lu Cheng's heartbeat quickened. He kept telling himself to be patient and to do it step by step so as not to frighten Ku. However, his footsteps were getting faster and faster. Yenjika, on the other hand, wanted to be reserved. But when she saw the familiar figure, she couldn't help but move her feet to welcome him. After a few steps, they were so close that they could hear each other's breathing. Their faces were so clear. They were no longer separated by screens, phones, computers, or network cables. Her face was as beautiful as a flower. Her smile was as light as usual. Lu Cheng's mind buzzed. He forgot everything else and reached out to hold Yenjika tightly in his arms. Yenjika was stunned at first. Then she softened. Feeling the warmth in her memory and smelling the familiar scent, she felt the worry, fear, nervousness, and uneasiness in her heart disappear one by one. The unfamiliarity of fear disappeared before it even appeared. There were a few other couples hugging like this in the arrival hall of Orion. They weren't the only ones. How enviable. Smith chewed his gum and stared at the surveillance screen. He almost whistled. Chapter 494. With her fragrance lingering in his nose and the warmth of her body in his arms, Lu Cheng felt his heart settle down. The emptiness in his heart was finally filled. Neither of them spoke as they immersed themselves in the embrace of each other. However, the conservative nature in their bones prevented them from kissing passionately like the other couples in the arrival hall. After a long while, Yenjika gently pushed Lu Cheng away. She brushed her slightly messy hair and said with a teary face, "Let's go out. Andu is waiting for us. Let's talk when we get home." "Yes, home." "Okay." Lu Cheng held her delicate hand as if he was familiar with it. It was as if they had never been apart for more than a month. Their fingers were intertwined and they held each other tightly. With a smile that was difficult to fade away, the couple talked about their feelings just now as they slowly walked out. They walked out of the arrival hall and into the parking lot. Duyen was standing beside the car. Seeing them come over, she smiled and waved. "Aunt Du, this is Lu Cheng." Yenjika pointed at her husband and said with a faint smile, "Hello, Aunt Du." Lu Cheng immediately smiled and greeted her. Their hands were intertwined, with no intention of letting go. Good, good, good. Ku has been watching your matches recently. I also took a few glances." Duyen smiled and shook her head. "If my son was half as capable as you, I would wake up laughing in my sleep." She glanced at the posture of the couple from the corner of her eyes and was speechless. Youngsters nowadays are so much more open than us. However, they have already received Elder G's recognition and met his parents. They are just waiting to graduate and get married. It's normal for them to be closer. Unlike the Americans, it's scary. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the couple sat in the back. Due to the presence of outsiders, they did not talk about reuniting after a long time. They only talked about Lu Cheng's feelings on the long-distance international flight and the interesting things Yenjika had seen and heard in school. The car sped all the way into the North District of Connecticut. This was a gathering place for the local wealthy. Police were often seen patrolling the area, and it was rare to see outsiders. After passing by patches of grass, they successfully arrived at Yenjika's rented home. Looking at the sky, Duyen smiled and said, You guys get off first. I'll go to the garage and prepare dinner. The food on the plane is not good and it's not enough. Yeah. Lu Qing expressed his agreement. Whether it was delicious or not was up to the individual, but the portion was too little for him at the moment. Every time he had to be thick-skinned and ask the stewardess for 2 more portions. Even so, he was only 30% full. Previously, all he could think about was Ku, so he didn't feel hungry at all. But now he could hear his stomach rumbling. Yanjika also sensed it. She held back her laughter and pulled Lu Qing out of the car. Then they walked quickly to the gate. Since you're so delicious, I'll give you my share too. Her eyes sparkled as she pursed her lips and said, "What about you?" Lu Qing wasn't willing to let his little fairy go hungry. Yanjika pouted slightly, wrinkled her nose and replied with grief and indignation, "I've gained 4 pounds. You still dare to eat it?" "No, I didn't feel it when I carried you just now. Besides, with your strength this weight is a lot lighter." Lu Qing comforted Coco. "At least you're tactful. If you dare to say that I'm really fat, humph." Yanjika's eyes twinkled. She pursed her lips and said, "It's true. It was okay when we were in the language short-term class. But after the official start of the semester, we had to connect with the curriculum in our country. The schedule was tight. Also, the professors here love to give homework. Sometimes we have to work in groups. There's a girl in our group who's dragging us down, so we're so busy every day. We sleep very late and don't have much time to train in the morning. That's why our weight keeps increasing." She swung her arm up to represent her weight. "Luckily, I don't think you're heavy anymore." Lu Qing emphasized again. He wouldn't say that he always thought that Cuckoo was on the thin side. A little meat would be better. "I'm a good youth who grew up with all the tricks of Ko Chien. How could I make a mistake on such a simple matter?" While talking, he followed Yanjika into the house. It was a 2-story building. The exterior didn't reveal anything, but the interior was luxuriously decorated. "You'll stay in my mom's room. It's on the 2nd floor like mine. Aunt Du will stay downstairs." Yanjika explained to Lu Qing the arrangements for this period of time. "Okay." Lu Qing nodded without a care. "It doesn't matter where I live. I'll move to your place anyway. Aunt Du is on the 1st floor. She won't be disturbed." Yanjika seemed to have sensed his thoughts. She glanced at him coquettishly. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about you." Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh. He instantly found the ability to say sweet nothings in front of her. "Pooh, you're obviously thinking about bad things." Yanjika spat and turned her head to the side. She was about to say something when Du Yen walked in. She had to stop herself and talk about the local customs of Connecticut with Lu Qing. As they talked and laughed, a sumptuous dinner was placed on the table because the ingredients had already been prepared. Yanjika picked up a few chopsticks and finished half a bowl of rice. Then she put down the cutlery and looked at her silly Cheng stuffing himself with one hand. "You're really not eating?" Lu Qing asked again with concern. "No, I'm on a diet. After this period of time, when I get used to the curriculum and have time to train, I'll go back to my normal diet." Yanjika answered seriously and resolutely. "Okay. Why do I feel like you're more tired studying abroad than at home?" Lu Qing sighed. Yanjika puffed up her cheeks and said, "If I really want to learn well here, there will be a lot of homework and reports. It's not like what some people at home think where they only have fun. Also, I've chosen more courses. In order to finish school early, graduate early and go back early to see you, then you have to train hard. A good body will give you a good spirit." Lu Qing reminded her. At this time Du Yen brought out 2 more dishes. One was mashed potatoes in the middle, surrounded by roasted potato skin. The other was tomato oxtail soup. The red color was very attractive. Yanjika sniffed and looked straight at it. Then she picked up a piece of roasted potato skin and said, "Cheng Aunt Du's dish is really delicious." "Really?" Lu Qing looked at her and waited for her to pick up food for him. However, Yanjika put the potato skin into her mouth. Her neat and clean teeth nibbled on half of it, and then she chewed and swallowed with satisfaction. "Didn't you say you don't want to eat?" Lu Qing said, amused. Yanjika replied with a hum, and raised her chin, replying righteously and sternly, "I'm trying to see if it's good or not." "Well, not bad. Aunt Du didn't fail. You can eat now." Lu Qing tried to hold back his laughter. He cleared his throat and said, "Then why don't you try the other dishes for me?" Yanjika bit her lips and looked like she was in a dilemma. Finally, she looked up and nodded slightly. "Since you're so insistent." At this point she couldn't pretend anymore. She laughed first. Her voice was clear and the branches swayed. Then she said bitterly, "You have to train with me tomorrow morning. Do you know that?" Before Lu Qing could answer, she had already picked up a piece of stewed beef and stuffed it into her mouth impatiently. Don't worry. Lu Qing looked at his wife gently with a smile. After eating and drinking, they sat on the sofa and watched Du Yen tidy up the table. After you digest, I'll bake you cakes and biscuits. Sitting next to Lu Qing, Yanjika was eager to show off her achievements during this period. I'm looking forward to it. Lu Qing was also interested. Then I'll prepare the ingredients first. Yanjika stood up, put on her slippers and walked to the kitchen. She was like a diligent little bee, going in and out, back and forth. It wasn't until now that Lu Qing had recovered from some kind of excitement and noticed what his little fairy was wearing. It wasn't like before when he only had eyes for her, only her frown and smile. Other than that, he didn't pay attention to anything else. She's so pretty. His gaze followed the girl's figure from side to side. When Yanjika was almost done and came back, he remembered something. He pointed at the stairs with his chin and laughed in a low voice. Let's go to your room first. I'll give you the gift. Okay. Yanjika's eyes sparkled, but she pretended to be reserved. She led Lu Qing to the second floor at a steady pace. On the second floor, Lu Qing entered the girl's room. He put down his backpack, opened the bag, pulled down the zipper and took out a book. Chinese home-cooked food. It's the thought that counts. Seeing the menu and hearing his words, Yanjika burst into laughter. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and watched her husband take out something else. Also, this amulet is made of silver. I bought it in Jingyan Ancient City. Lu Qing introduced the gifts one by one, as though he was talking about his life in the past month. He rambled on and presented his feelings wholeheartedly. It was as though no matter where he went, his heart was always with the girl. Yanjika felt a little tipsy as she watched and listened. Her eyes flickered with starry light. Okay, that's all. Lu Qing stopped. Yanjika raised her head and stared at him. Her eyes seemed to contain thousands of words, making Lu Qing's heart skip a beat. Just as the atmosphere became delicate, the girl saw a few boxes of strange things in Lu Qing's backpack from the corner of her eye. What's that? Yanjika propped herself up and stretched her arm out curiously. Lu Qing looked down and blushed. He wanted to stop her, but it was too late. Yanjika took out the boxes and took a closer look at them. Her pretty face immediately turned red like the red clouds in the sky. She said in a sweet voice, "You even bought these things." Qing actually brought a condom over. Ahem, I was just thinking that I'm already at the inhuman stage. Lu Qing pretended to be normal. Yanjika snorted. She had never seen the real thing before, so she held back her shyness and opened the boxes curiously. She was stunned and blurted out, "Why is there one missing?" Chapter 495. Ah. Hearing his little fairy's question, Lu Qing opened his mouth but found it hard to speak. Seeing him in a daze, Yanjika blinked innocently and pointed to the upper left corner of the box. There's a 3 here. Doesn't it mean there are 3 of them? I think there are only 2 inside. I'm too young to understand. Don't lie to me. Lu Qing's face turned red. He decided to tell the truth. The words on the back of the box clearly indicated that it was a 3-piece package. As long as Ku wasn't blind and had the heart to look at it, she would definitely notice it. If she lied about this kind of thing, wouldn't it arouse suspicion? Wouldn't she be waiting for a domestic violence case? Cough cough. He coughed again and looked to the side, pretending that he didn't care since he was thick-skinned. It's 3. I haven't used it before. I was afraid that I might mess it up at a critical moment, so I opened the package and tried it myself. Yanjika was dumbfounded. Her clear eyes were wide open, like a kitten whose head was stuck. After a few seconds, she realized what was going on. Her body began to tremble like a sieve, and her dimples appeared uncontrollably. It was very difficult for her to hold back her laughter. Qing is really good at preparation. What an experimental spirit. You're so funny. Yanjika threw away the box, fell down and hugged the white bear doll. She laughed so hard that one of her slippers fell off the edge of the bed. I can't help it. Ah. Lu Qing looked helplessly at his wife who was about to roll on the bed with laughter. He sighed softly and rubbed his face. I was afraid of embarrassing myself at a critical moment and being laughed at by you for the rest of my life. Well, it doesn't seem to make any difference now. Well, it's worth it to make Ko laugh and make her so happy. While thinking, he began to feel that this was quite funny. He looked at Yanjika with a slight smile, waiting to see how long she could laugh. After looking at her for a few seconds, his gaze was involuntarily attracted to the girl's curved eyebrows, her delicate cheeks that were flushed from smiling, her beautiful pink lips that were pursed, and her fair and slender neck. From top to bottom, from bottom to top, he looked at her again and again. The night outside the window seemed to have gotten darker, and the moon seemed to have gotten brighter. Yenjika laughed for dozens of seconds and finally calmed down. When she was about to make fun of her Cheng, she suddenly found that the surroundings had become unusually quiet. Then she felt the bed sink. She raised her head and turned her face to the side. She saw Lu Qing sitting on the edge of the bed with his back bent. His eyes were deep and dark, as if there was a dark fire burning in them, but they were filled with her figure. When their eyes met, Yenjika bit her lower lip lightly and withdrew her wanton smile. She slowly closed her eyes, her long and black eyelashes fluttering. Lu Qing supported himself with both hands, bent down and gently kissed the girl's pink lips. With a clang, the inside and outside of the room were cut off. I finally understand what absence makes the heart grow fonder. Lu Qing thought happily as he pulled the girl to him after finishing his work and lay down on the bed. You were so hungry just now. Yenjika protested in a delicate voice as she playfully traced Lu Qing's abs. He felt like he would be swallowed whole. I was indeed hungry for a long time. Lu Qing snickered. I wanted to restrain myself on the first day so that you wouldn't think I was only thinking about that. But when I saw my little fairy, I couldn't help it. After such a communication, the two felt that the last bit of distance between them and the barrier brought by time had completely disappeared. Their hearts were tightly pressed together again, and they couldn't wait to tell each other all their secrets. Yenjika wanted to laugh and glare at Lu Qing at the same time. She bit her lip and asked half curiously and half concernedly, Qing, I have a question for you. I heard that once a boy starts to think about it, he will always think about it. Have you thought about it in the past month? What if you do? You wouldn't do that, right? She lowered her eyes and laughed secretly, thinking of how she was tricked by Qing to help him in the past. It's all right. Previously, I was at a critical moment in the Inhuman stage and had to participate in the King of Youth Pro League. My wife wasn't by my side, so I didn't have the time to think about that. Later on, sometimes it would pass after a while. Sometimes it would be resolved by myself. Didn't I do that in the past? Lu Qing answered frankly and proudly while caressing her sweaty back. I don't even look at other girls. Hearing her husband's words warmed Yenjika's heart. She suddenly remembered Yen Xiaoling's complaint. She said that she had finally mustered up the courage to sign up for the special training and accept Coach Lu's guidance. But in the end, her idol only had eyes for his senior and flew straight to America without any hesitation. This disappointed many female students who were interested in participating. Because of this, she decided to go back and sleep in. It was better to watch her idol from afar. What about you? Lu Qing asked casually. Just as he said that, he felt regret and suspected that he would be kicked off the bed. Yenjika was feeling sweet inside and wanted to be closer to silly Chen. After hearing that, her pretty face flushed red. She gave Lu Qing a hard punch and kicked him. She said angrily, Why would I? I'm very busy. I have to adapt to the curriculum here every day and keep up with my progress. Most of the time, I have to do homework and reports. Also, I don't like to attend classmates' gatherings. The group discussions are all held in the library and then I leave. They all think that I'm not easy to get along with. They think that I'm a nerd, a boring person, very antisocial, introverted, and unsociable. Here they all like the cheerful, lively girls who can sing and dance. Well, actually, it's not so bad. I don't have to worry about how to avoid arousing suspicion. As she spoke, she forgot about the problem and opened up her heart. She told Lu Qing all the grievances that she had mentioned before but didn't talk about them in depth. Avoid arousing suspicion. Lu Qing was both happy and sympathetic when he heard this word. He hurriedly asked, Do they dislike you? They do, but it's not that serious. After all, I'm a straight-A student and the others in the group rely on me. So they are quite polite. Humph, if they dare to provoke me, I'm a top professional ninth pin expert. Yenjika told Lu Qing all her feelings in the past month from beginning to end. Lu Qing comforted her as he listened, or told jokes to dispel the haze. In the end, he clenched his fist and waved it. If anyone dares to bully my little fairy, I'll make them beg for death. Ice and fire, let's see if they're afraid. Yenjika was amused again. After she stopped, she frowned and stared at him. I was so focused on talking to you that I forgot to take a shower first. I'm sweating so much that it's sticky. As she spoke, she tried to put on her shirt and walked barefoot to the bathroom. Eh. Lu Qing replied with a smile. What's so good about you? Yenjika looked up at her husband, annoyed and suspicious. Taking a shower is good. Lu Qing supported himself with his hands and got off the bed. Then he held his little fairy's back with one hand and her legs with the other, completing a princess carry. Let's go and take a shower. He laughed and opened the door to the bathroom on the second floor. According to Ku, the soundproofing between the first and second floor was very good. If there wasn't anything strange, Aunt Du wouldn't come up here. Yenjika was completely dumbfounded. When she came to her senses, it was already too late. She quickly buried her face in Lu Cheng's chest and beat him fiercely. You stinky hooligan. The sound lingered in the air, turning into the sound of water. After a while, Lu Cheng came out in a fluster. He rushed into the room, picked up the last box and returned. The night was full of stars and wind. At dawn, Yenjika pushed someone away and sat up. Her cheeks were still red as she glared at him. It's all your fault. The sun is coming out. She bit her lower lip hatefully and said with a stern look, use the J formula on me. I still have classes in the morning. Cough. Actually, we were just chatting. How can you blame me? Lu Cheng laughed secretly. He visualized the ancient word in high spirits and formed the hand seal. He said in a low voice, Sh. After using the secret technique, his spirit dropped. He said with a pained heart, you should sleep on time next time. I always feel that using the J formula to recover is evil. It's okay to use it once or twice, but it's harmful to your body in the long run. Okay, sleep on time. Yenjika chuckled and then put on a serious expression. She shook her fist and said, I'll remember what you said. Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. After washing up, the two were ready to go out for their morning exercise. When they went downstairs, Yenjika glanced at the kitchen and suddenly exclaimed, What's wrong? Lu Cheng asked in confusion. I said I would bake a cake and biscuits for you yesterday. I even prepared the ingredients. In the end, they didn't come down. Yenjika's face turned red inch by inch. She was so embarrassed that she almost couldn't lift her head. Endu didn't clean up. She must have thought that we would come to make them at night. And now they are still there. Isn't it obvious? It's fine. I just said I forgot. Lu Cheng was thick-skinned and didn't mind. Yenjika rolled her eyes and glared at him. She clenched her teeth and said, It's all your fault. To this, Lu Cheng could only reply with a smile. After the morning exercise and breakfast, Aunt Du drove Yenjika to school. Lu Cheng followed her to liven up the atmosphere so that the girl wouldn't feel guilty in front of Aunt Du when they arrived at the school gate. Yenjika tied up her hair and put on her huge black-rimmed glasses. I'm going to class. You can walk around by yourself. The people here love to use slang. If you don't understand, you can just ask a few more times. Don't worry. I have professional translation software. I even downloaded the Google 3-piece set. Lu Cheng smiled and waved his phone. At this moment, Du Yen parked the car and accompanied Yenjika into the school. She would wait in a secluded area to prevent school shootings or violent incidents. American schools weren't exactly safe. Lu Cheng only retracted his gaze when the girl's figure disappeared. He opened the map and searched for martial arts centers or fighting venues nearby. One of his main goals in coming to America was to experience more martial arts of different styles. After confirming the direction, he followed the map and walked like a backpacker. After a while, he arrived at a 3-story building. There was a signboard here that said, China Dragon Punch Dojo. It's really Chinese. Lu Cheng stood at the entrance and looked around. He happened to see the receptionist at the front desk. She had long black hair and delicate facial features. Judging from her appearance, she wasn't Japanese. Hello, are you here to learn martial arts? The receptionist noticed him and asked in English with a sweet smile. Chapter 496. Hearing the receptionist's question, Lu Cheng's mind spun quickly. He smiled and nodded. I'm thinking about it. Can I go in and take a look? He wasn't proficient enough in speaking and could only express his thoughts in a concise manner. If the so-called Dragon Fist was unique and different from others, and the martial arts masters were strong, he wouldn't mind paying to spend a few days here. He could also complete a private spar and not ruin the reputation of the martial arts masters. Of course, I'll get someone to lead you in and introduce you, the receptionist replied with a smile, as though she had seen a business deal about to be done. She picked up the phone and spoke a few words. Soon, a skinny young man came out of the martial arts hall and greeted him warmly. Chinese? Yes, Lu Cheng answered frankly. The young man in front of him didn't have a lot of chi and blood. He could barely see the muscles on his arms. Just arrived in Connecticut, right? The skinny young man sized Lu Cheng up and said with a smile, The weather here is changeable, so you have to be careful. I forgot to mention I'm Li Zuanping, a student and handyman in the martial arts hall. Let's talk inside. You can take a look around. Sure. Lu Qing followed Li Zuanping into the hall with great interest. He toured the training ground on the first floor and the strength and equipment room on the second floor. He found that the layout here was similar to that in China, except that most of the students were foreigners. Looking at the men and women with white, black, or brown skin practicing the horse stance and punching, it was a fascinating feeling. What do you think? We are a very orthodox martial arts hall from China. The strength of our instructors is also very strong. A few of them have won the Connecticut Unlimited Fighting Championship. Li Zuanping did his best to introduce the place. Have you practiced martial arts before? If you are a beginner, we have corresponding courses and special training plans. Listening to the other party's long-winded speech and glancing at the ordinary punching and kicking practice, Lu Qing restrained his waning interest and replied with a smile, "Let me think about it. Do you have any promotional materials? Can you give me a copy to take home for a closer look?" Although the instructors here were able to make a sound with their punches and kicks, and from time to time, they would be able to break wooden planks and break bricks. The cracking sounds made the foreigners admire them, and they felt that the mysterious Chinese kung fu was indeed powerful. However, to them it was really boring. The so-called dragon fist seemed to be an ordinary kung fu that had been modified to be closer to the local physique. However, there was a technique to rejecting. He couldn't just say that the martial arts hall was full of weaklings and that he didn't like them. Using "think about it" was an effective way to get away. Yes, I'll give you a copy later. Let me tell you, our Dragon Punch Dojo has 10 years of history and we have 5 or 6 branches in Connecticut. We're definitely not the kind that scams people's money. Our dojo owner is called Zhu Hong, and he went to Nanyang after he made some achievements in martial arts. He's not very famous in China, so it's normal that you haven't heard of him. 11 years ago he migrated to Connecticut, and combined the martial arts and fighting techniques of 3 different places. He created the Dragon Punch. Li Zuanping smiled. The competition in the local martial arts field in Connecticut is very intense. The fact that we can survive for 10 years proves many things. It sounds like a legend. Lu Qing's interest was aroused again. He asked with a smile, "What about Master Zhu now?" Maybe the characteristics of Dragon Fist can't be reflected in ordinary teaching practice. I can't be arrogant and blindly deny others. Master Zhu is a very busy person. He only oversees each branch for 1 day. And the day after tomorrow on Wednesday he will come to our place. At that time you can come and take a look and see the true Dragon Fist. Li Zuanping warmly invited. When the time comes you'll definitely be eager to join us. All right. Lu Qing smiled and nodded. Accompanied by Li Zuanping, he took the documents and left Dragon Fist Hall. He lowered his head and opened the Google map again to look for other fighting venues. In the outdoor cafe across the street, Smith sipped a bitter liquid. Sometimes he would look at the surveillance footage on the computer screen, and sometimes he would look up at the dangerous backpacker-like figure. Yes, a truly dangerous figure. Smith had read the information provided by Rainey in detail last night and had an unusually deep understanding of the target he was monitoring. That was a mobile high explosive. Rolling waves of fire, huge explosions, and wandering cold light all appeared in Smith's mind. He couldn't help but let out an "oh" and scold under his breath. Those idiots at the embassy whose brains are full of sh*t. Why did they give this guy a visa? Why didn't the boss just deport him? Knowing that he was just complaining, Smith touched his small earpiece and lowered his voice. He instructed a few members of his team to change their positions to avoid being detected by the target. After doing all this, he raised his head and sipped his coffee while looking at the target in a manner of admiring the scenery. At this moment, Lu Qing looked around blankly and coincidentally made eye contact with him. Smith's body tensed up. He didn't look away in a hurry and pretended that nothing was wrong. He nodded his head in a friendly manner and slowly looked to the side. His reaction was that of any normal American. Suddenly he realized that Lu Qing had moved. That dangerous figure was walking towards the zebra crossing. Taking advantage of the green light, he crossed the street and seemed to be closing in on him. Damn it. Smith quickly lowered his head and pretended to drink his coffee. He cursed in a panic. He couldn't have discovered something, right? Should I get up immediately and leave the scene or reveal my identity, explain the need to monitor him and use legal terms to confuse him? While he was hesitating, a figure appeared in his line of sight. Lu Qing stopped right in front of him. With a whoosh, Smith's back was covered in a layer of cold sweat. Smith, this is what every man who wants to be Spider-Man has to go through. Show me your courage. He muttered, raised his head, and calmly looked at the Chinese young man who was marked with the word dangerous in red. Sorry, can I bother you? I would like to ask for directions. Lu Qing tried his best to make his smile amiable. Just now, when our eyes met, I decided to ask this fated person for directions. He looks pretty friendly. Smith almost raised his hand to dig his ears, suspecting that he had heard wrongly. He replied in a daze, no problem. I'm a martial arts enthusiast. Are there any famous martial arts training grounds around here? Lu Qing organized his words and asked expectantly. With Google's map, he wasn't afraid of finding his way. However, after searching for a long time, he couldn't find his next destination because of his headache from reading English. He even complained to his wife about it. Smith grinned, unfolded the lines on his forehead, and answered with a dazed smile, Msasi Martial Arts Arena at the 7th Street. It's one of the important bases of the Jaruga martial arts sect. Base, understand? Understood. Thank you. A name flashed across Lu Cheng's mind, and he quickly confirmed the route on the map. He waved his hand, bade farewell to the kind brown-haired man, and walked towards the 7th Street not far away. Smith waved back reflexively. When he was far away, he wiped his forehead. His hands were wet with cold sweat. He's just here to ask for directions? Smith muttered. Why is he looking for a martial arts arena? He said he's a martial arts enthusiast. As he muttered to himself, Smith's expression suddenly changed. He stood up abruptly and knocked over a chair. Through the device, he issued an order to his subordinates. Monitor the Msasi Martial Arts Arena immediately. Mobilize the nets above, snares below. Gather manpower and be on the alert for danger level. A dangerous level martial artist from China heading to the Jaruga sect's martial arts arena was bound to give rise to bad thoughts. After more than 30 minutes, he finally saw the huge signboard of the Msasi Martial Arts Arena. The logo of the Jaruga sect was printed on it, a fist holding a trident. Below the signboard were the words, Msasi and Msasi. This is the place. It's much more luxurious than the Dragon Punch Dojo. Lu Qing pushed open the door and entered happily. The receptionist at the front desk was a blonde, blue-eyed girl in a red dress with an explosive figure. She paused for a moment, then slowed down her pace and asked, You're here to learn martial arts? Yes. Can I take a look before making a decision? Lu Qing answered with familiarity. Of course you can. The blonde girl revealed a smile and reminded him in a friendly manner, Many martial artists have a fiery temper. After you enter, you have to remember a few things. Don't stare at others practicing. If someone provokes you, pretend you didn't see or hear it. As for words of discrimination, please bear with it, okay? Okay. Lu Qing nodded with a smile. After waiting for 2 minutes, a black youth with pigtails and dressed in a very hip-hop style walked out. When he opened his mouth, Lu Qing suspected for a moment that he would say something like, Yo yo yo. Oh, a shy Asian boy. The black youth laughed. I'm Brooke. Hello, Brooke. Lu Qing didn't introduce himself and followed him into the Msasi Martial Arts Arena. They had just taken a few steps when they were greeted by a huge figure. It was a muscular black man who was obviously more than 2 meters tall. His arms were exaggerated and shiny, comparable to Lu Cheng's thighs. With a mocking smile, he glanced at Lu Cheng's thin and weak arms and flexed his terrifying biceps. Little boy, martial arts isn't suitable for you. After saying that, the bald giant didn't wait for a reply. He let out a carefree laugh and turned into another room. Don't mind him. Olsen was just joking. He's actually a very kind and humorous person. Brooke hurriedly explained to Lu Cheng, who was a little stunned. Compared to other martial artists. After watching Lu Cheng and Brooke enter, the blonde girl looked outside with nothing to do. Suddenly she saw someone jumping between the tall buildings like a spider. Chapter 497. The blonde girl exclaimed in surprise. She hurriedly picked up her phone and tried to take a picture. However, when she aimed the screen at him, the figure leaping like a spider between the skyscrapers was already gone. I missed a superhero. Retracting her gaze, she expressed her regret on social media. Although everyone knew that superheroes from comics and movies were virtual characters and were exaggerations of reality, there were always fans who had evolved similar abilities to imitate and replicate them. According to incomplete statistics, there were more than 20 Spider-Men, who were publicly recognized and recorded by fans in America. Batman and Magneto were also not in the minority. After lamenting, the blonde girl suddenly fell into deep thought. The appearance of superheroes was often accompanied by danger. Was there something scary in the vicinity? For a moment she was both anxious and curious. In the Msasi martial arts arena, Lu Qing smiled after hearing Brooke's explanation. Understood, understood. Faced with the ridicule and discrimination of the bald giant, Olsen, if it were him in the past, he would have been exceptionally angry and embarrassed. However, with his current strength and realm, he only found it funny and didn't feel insulted. Fighting isn't suitable for me? This joke is enough to keep me entertained for a week. Brooke nodded in satisfaction and led Lu Qing deeper into the arena. They passed through corridors after corridors, passing by training grounds, and introduced the general knowledge of the Jaruga sect. The most influential martial arts school in the Omega Empire was the Mission School. However, the school with the longest history was the Nature School. They believed that everything had a spirit, and through that they could gain power and transform themselves. The Jaruga school belonged to a major branch of the Nature School. They placed the spirituality of the human body in a more important position. Similarly, there were also different sects within the Jaruga sect. The Msasi sect focused on martial arts and, besides the spirituality of the human body, still emphasized on communicating with the spirits of all things. The other sect was closer to spirit cultivation, and had almost developed into a cult. In order to awaken the spirituality of the human body, some of their rituals could even be classified as a cult. However, these were all Brooke's words. His stand was clear, and some of his words could only be taken as a passing remark. Lu Qing didn't comment on this. Occasionally he would respond with a yes, yes, yes. Most of the time he was observing the layout, the coaches and the students. Compared to the Dragon Fist Dojo, the Msasi fighting arena occupied a large area. The upper and lower floors were separated into training grounds and rooms. There were barehanded fights, wrestling practice, weapons training, and even fitness classes for ordinary people. As he turned the corner of a room, he caught a glimpse of something that looked like an aquarium out of the corner of his eye. It was made up of huge glass partitions. Inside, the water rippled gently. The color was dark blue, and light shone in from different places. A bare-chested, muscular white man in leather shorts sank down from above. He held his breath and kicked continuously, breaking the underwater stone pillars into two. It's not bad to be able to do this underwater. Lu Qing didn't look any further. He continued forward, deep in thought. All right, this place is exclusively for fighters. As they walked, Brooke reached out and stopped him. He smiled and said, "Sorry?" Lu Qing subconsciously looked over and found the place bathed in sunlight. A breeze blew in through the window. It was so quiet that his mind couldn't help but settle. However, it wasn't as if there was no one there. Vaguely, one could see a white man with bulging muscles. He was holding a large sword and silently practicing slashing. Every slash was shining like a star. Step/resplendent, step/resplendent. This boring and monotonous scene piqued Lu Qing's interest in the Jaruga sect and the Msasi fighting arena. He turned his head and asked Brooke, "If I want to learn, what choice do I have?" To Lu Qing, he wanted to experience different martial arts styles, but he didn't want to cause any trouble. This was because there was a high possibility that it would result in deportation and visa rejection. He wouldn't be able to fly to America to see his little fairy in the future. To him, that would be putting the cart before the horse. Wasn't the most important thing to come here for a couple's reunion? Furthermore, directly challenging the dojo didn't suit his character. It felt too arrogant, unreasonable, and could easily ruin the reputation of others. Therefore, Lu Qing's plan had always been to pay some money and train with them to broaden his horizons. When the opportunity presented itself, he would spar with the strong and become a good young man with ideals, morals, culture, and discipline. All right, we have fitness, beginner, intermediate, and advanced classes. Which one do you want to enroll in? The latter classes require a corresponding fighting foundation, and they're very expensive. Brooke explained in detail as he led Lu Qing back. What's the level of the advanced class? How much is the tuition fee? Lu Qing asked without hesitation. Brooke was stunned for a moment. Looking at the black-haired man's thin arms and legs, he couldn't help but laugh. You advanced? Yes, I used to practice martial arts. Martial arts, understand? Lu Qing waved his fist in a standard motion. Martial arts. Brooke muttered to himself. He was shocked, but his eyes were still filled with disbelief. To him, Chinese martial arts were a mystery. It could allow someone who didn't look strong enough to explode with terrifying strength. But could this Asian boy in front of him be someone who had learned martial arts? Let me think. Hey Joe Waika, come here for a moment. You can spar with him. Put on your gloves. Brooke gestured to the half-naked muscular Caucasian man. He was practicing his footwork and punches. Joe Waika had a broad forehead and cold features. He looked shy and introverted, but upon closer inspection, one could see the violent and bloodthirsty desire hidden within him. Him? Brooke, stop joking. Joe Waika glanced at Lu Cheng, then glared at the black youth with braids. He wants to enroll in the advanced classes. Brooke shrugged helplessly. Advanced classes? Joe Waika seemed to have heard something funny. He shrugged his shoulders, laughing non-stop. When he was done, he turned around and put on his gloves. He looked at Lu Cheng and said, "Little boy, I'll let you know what an advanced class is. It's different from drinking milk in your mother's arms." "Don't I need to use gloves?" Lu Cheng asked casually. "No need. Punch me with all your might." Joe Waika's eyes lit up as he answered excitedly. "This is the first time I've heard such a request," Lu Cheng complained. He suddenly bent his legs, twisted his knees, swung his back, and sent a straight punch forward. Despite his complaints, he didn't use his full strength. He didn't even use the explosive power of the dance stage because it wasn't worth it. Bam! A crisp sound rang in Joe Waika's ears. Seeing his opponent's fist inches away, he hurriedly raised his arms and got into a boxing stance. In his mind, he was already imagining his counterattack. He was going to send this Asian boy crying and running back to his mother with a combination of punches. Bam! His gloves dented. Joe Waika's body swayed. He couldn't help but take a step back. 2 steps, 3 steps. Thump. He couldn't stand properly and fell to the ground. "Is that good enough?" Lu Cheng turned around and smiled at Brooke. "Okay." Brooke replied blankly. "Chinese Kung Fu is amazing. This skinny Asian boy can actually knock Joe Waika down with one punch. He's a rising star in boxing. How much is the tuition fee?" Lu Cheng glanced at Joe Waika from the corner of his eye as he stood up shakily. "It's fine if it's too expensive. I'll think of a way to broaden my horizons. From now until Christmas, $5,000. Brooke waved at the confused Joe Waika, indicating for him to return to the training ground. $5,000? That's a little expensive. Lu Cheng thought for a moment. "Where do I pay?" "Follow me." Brooke was a man who had seen martial artists before. He quickly came back to his senses and led Lu Cheng in a different direction. He casually explained, "Our gym membership fee is $100 per month, not including personal trainers. The beginner class is $500, the intermediate class is $1,000, and the intermediate class is $2,000. Lu Cheng had specially applied for a dual-currency credit card in China for the convenience of seeing his wife. This was the perfect time to put it to use. After swiping the card, they signed an agreement. They agreed that they would be able to attend martial arts classes tomorrow for 4 hours a day. If they did well and performed well, they would be able to become an apprentice of the Musashi Martial Arts Gym, a true martial arts apprentice. During this process, Lu Cheng, who was dizzy from reading the agreement, even took a picture of Yen Zhika. In the end, both parties were happy. Brooke sent Lu Cheng off with a bright smile and waved goodbye. "See you tomorrow." Lu Cheng smiled and headed back to Connecticut University. At this time, Smith had just finished setting up the surveillance cameras to prevent any unexpected situations. He watched as Lu Cheng left the Musashi Martial Arts Gym. Left? Damn it. What is he trying to do? Smith cursed. He used his Skynet access to check the Musashi Martial Arts Gym's internal network and some of the surveillance cameras. He signed up for a martial arts class? At this moment, Smith felt that the world was full of imagination. A dangerous level guy actually signed up for a martial arts class that wasn't even an apprentice. After a few seconds, he came to a realization. He remembered a few cases where Chinese martial artists had challenged the martial arts experts as soon as they entered the country. They had caused a lot of trouble and could only be sent back. This monster is trying to use other methods to achieve his goal. Smith nodded slightly. Should I remind the Musashi Martial Arts Gym? A question popped up in Smith's mind. He quickly found the answer. Why should I? He smiled and drew a cross in front of his chest. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.